And I know we are being recorded, so.
One moment. Wait.
Yep.
All right, our recording is started. Okay, go ahead.
So at this time, we will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Orange Township Planning Board for today, October 23rd, 2024. I'm going to ask that everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Madam Secretary, have we met the Sunshine Law?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in accordance with Chapter 231, Section 5 of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this remote public meeting of the Planning Board of the City of Orange Township was filed with the municipal clerk of the City of Orange Township, posted on the city's bulletin board designated for that purpose and on all official city website, as well as mailed to the city's official newspaper as provided by ordinance.
Thank you. Can I ask you to take attendance, please?
Yes. Member Foston. Absent. Member Anuké.
Present.
Member Mobley.
Present.
Member Latour.
Present.
Council Vice President Eason. Absent. Mayor Warren.
Present.
Vice Chair Jones.
Here.
Chairman Holmes.
Present.
Quorum has been met.
Thank you. Is there any correspondence at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we received the correspondence from Mary Reed Lermont, resident at 483 Hillside Avenue. This correspondence was included in your packet. It's in regards to the concerns for the traffic study to be conducted for 512 Scotland LLC at 512-522 Scotland Road, which was a condition of approval.
And if I can, Chair, when you get a chance,
Attorney Wenzel?
we'll also transmit that over to the applicant as well on well, it's no longer an applicant, but the developer at 512 Scotland.
All right, great. Thank you. Is that it for correspondence, Madam Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the adoption of the June 26, 2024 minutes. And that was also included in the packet. So I hope everyone had an opportunity to review them so that we can move forward. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I make a motion to, go ahead.
Motion.
We have a motion from
Second.
Vice Chair Jones and a second from Member Mobley. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none. So roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Member Anuké.
Yes.
Member Mobley.
Yes.
Member Latour.
Yes.
Mayor Warren.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones.
Yes.
Chairman Holmes.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next item would be the adoption of the July 24, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion from Member Mobley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Latour. Are there any questions on the motion? Just the one thing that I noticed, Madam Secretary, just a couple of typographical errors on the names.
Okay.
I know there was one for Latour and one for Vice Chair Jones.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, it's okay, but you've finally proven to us that
Yes.
you're human. You're human. It's okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Member Anuké,
Yes.
Member Mobley,
Yes.
Member Latour,
Yes.
Mayor Warren,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
yes,
Chairman Holmes,
Yes.
motion passes.
Before we move forward,
Councilwoman Easton here.
I am going to recognize Councilwoman Easton's presence to the meeting at 7:36 p.m. Thank you for joining us,
And Member
Council.
Boston to, Mayor. Chairman, yes.
Let the record show that 7:36, Member Boston has arrived to the meeting. Thank you. Moving the agenda to item number 8, the adoption of the August 28th, 2024 minutes.
Those minutes are going to be carried to the next meeting, Mr. Chairman, to the November 14th meeting.
All right.
We're not
Carried.
included in your packet.
And just a question, that would go to the 14th?
Yes,
Or
to the
the
14th,
special
November
meeting or
14th.
The
That's-
special meeting? Or the
That's a
regular?
regular meeting. We will discuss that.
Oh, that's right. Yep,
Yes.
November. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item number 9, memorialized resolution for case number 24-07. That's 299 Reynolds NJ LLC, 299 Reynolds Terrace, preliminary and final major site plan approval.
Mr. Chairman, in this resolution, Mayor Warren, Member Mobley, and Member Foston are not able to vote. They were not present.
Thank you.
And there's an error there. Not present, it should be 3, not 2.
Okay. All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
But,
Mo-
okay,
Motion from Councilwoman
no,
Easton?
the chairman,
Yes. No.
Council Vice President Eason, abstained during that, case.
I take back my motion.
All right, so
There's a few other guys in the.
I'll entertain a motion for this resolution.
I make the motion for resolution case number 24-707.
Motion by Member Latour. Is there a second?
second,
Second from Vice Chair Jones. Any questions on the motion? Madam Secretary?
All right, Member Anuké,
Yes.
Member Latour,
Yes.
Council Vice President Eason,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Jones,
yes,
Chairman Holmes,
No.
motion passes.
Thank you. Memorialized resolution for case number 24-08 27 BSTO Urban Renewal LLC. That's 27 Bell Street, preliminary and final major site plan approval.
No, not your bad.
And
Yeah,
this,
that was-
I'm sorry, 1 second, I need to
Yeah,
mute some.
Everyone, please mute your mics if you're not a member of the board, please.
All right. In this resolution, Mayor Warren, Member Mobley, and Member Foston are not able to vote. They were not present.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Member Anuké?
Motion.
Oh, sorry.
motion,
We have a motion from Vice Chair Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Anuké. Are there any questions on the motion? It's in your hands, Madam Secretary.
All right. Member Anuké,
Yes.
Member Latour,
Yes.
Council Vice President Eason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
yes,
Chairman Holmes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and that brings us to case number 24-10. I hope I say this right. Cymrec Orange.
No, Chairman. We
No.
actually have the memorialization for case number 24-03, VA 50M LLC for 50 Main Street, preliminary and final site plan approval.
You're absolutely right. I made the notes in the wrong place. Look at all these humans on this meeting. All right, so we're going to memorialize the resolution for case number 24-03, VA 50M LLC. That's 50 Main Street, preliminary major site plan approval.
motion,
Oh,
We have a motion from Vice
second.
Chair Jones. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, in this resolution, Mayor Warren and Member Flossin were not present at the meeting and not able to vote.
Second.
we have a motion from Vice Chair Jones and a second from Councilwoman Eason. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary.
Member Anuké,
Yes.
Member Mobley. You're muted, Member Mobley.
Yes.
Member Latour,
Yes.
Vice President Eason, Council Vice President Eason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
yes,
Chairman Holmes.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. And now, case number 24-10, Cymrec Orange JV LLC. It's 205 South Essex Avenue, preliminary and final major site plan approval.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Attorney Jenkins is here on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening,
Mr.
Attorney
Chairman.
Jenkins.
How are you, sir?
Wonderful.
Thank you. Good evening to you and to the members of the board. Again, for the record, Reggie Jenkins, Trank Isabel Siddiqui on behalf of the applicant. We're here for a site and a project which I'm sure we are all very familiar with. It's the Orange Memorial Hospital site. It's, despite its history in the city, it's a property that has been and remained unused and vacant and derelict now for at least 2 decades. And it's because of that dereliction and non-use that I believe the city incorporated it into the central Orange redevelopment area and redevelopment plan, with the hope that it could be brought back to life, to be brought back to productive use. This applicant this evening is, through this application, looking to do exactly that. It has been a long time coming. There's been a lot of effort, a lot of planning. And what we have before you, which we'll go into detail, is, I think, is going to be fairly stated, a transformative project for the city. Specifically, again, this is the old hospital site. What is being proposed is a mixed use site comprised of 1,005 residential units, with very highly and well-appointed amenitized space. The project is going to have things such as a rooftop pool. We're going to have cabanas, a sky lounge, fitness rooms, club rooms. There's going to be community space. There will be flex space, automated package rooms, grill stations, outdoor, patio areas, and more. in addition to the residential, there is going to be substantial public amenities as a component of this project. Specifically, we are, and as the father of a hockey guy, I'm very excited about this. One of the main things is we're going to have an ice rink right in the middle of this. We're going to have at least 1.75 acres of public plaza. There's going to be electric vehicle charging stations. We're going to have a covered outdoor plaza. There's going to be ride share, terrace seating, a passive open lawn. There is going to be a space for a restaurant. Again, outdoor seating, food truck staging, children's play mounds, swinging benches, and also propose, and I'll talk a bit about this later, retail and commercial space that is being called out. In addition to that, and I think a significant component of this project is the public space that is being offered by way of municipal and government offices. There is going to be a new city hall that is a component of this project, which will have council chambers, which will have municipal office space within it. The entirety of this project is going to have a total of 1,379 compliant parking spaces, which is inclusive of the 133 electric vehicle charging stations that are being proposed. This applicant so far with its negotiations with the city has been designated as the redeveloper for this area and has entered into a redevelopers agreement that was dated September 14th, 2023, that's codified that designation. Before we go into details of the project some more, I want to make a couple of points about the proposed parking. I mentioned the RDA and its specific date for a particular reason, in that the date of that predates the city's ordinance, which amended its parking regulations and requirements. And so it's this applicant's belief and opinion that it is the date of that RDA that is the governing date, which then imposes the standards that would be in place for this project. I mentioned that only just by way of reservations of rights, but without waiver of that contention. I do want to say that the project that you have before you this evening is proposing compliant parking with regard to the amended updated parking ordinance. The second thing I want to mention with regard to parking is that, and we'll go through the areas that have been designated as retail and commercial. We will still talk about them as commercial and retail space for the purpose of the parking, but this applicant is still in negotiations and discussions with the city with regard to the specific utilization of the proposed municipal space, such that there may at some point be a modification with some of those areas in their designation. And by that, I mean, some of them may become internal amenity spaces. Some of them may be for less parking intensive public space. And some of it may not be, will be flex space and may not be retail or commercial to the extent, if at all, that is being proposed. The reason I bring that up is because there may be a point further down the road where we have an overall project that has even less of an intensive parking requirement. But I bring those up just by way of overview, but I don't think that that should detain us in terms of going through the application this evening. As was noted in the intro, we are seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval. We also have a series of what I believe we all agree are minor setback variants that we're seeking relief for. In addition, we are seeking waiver from the placement of certain trees. And one thing I want to make a particular point of that is it is not a waiver for not providing the vast majority of trees that are required. As you'll see as we go through, we're only talking a small area of the project that is non-compliant. The rest of it, particularly with regard to the trees, is substantially compliant. That is the intro in a nutshell. We have 5 direct witnesses that in support of this application this evening. First, we're going to have Terrence Murray as a representative of the applicant. We will have Jeff Smith as well as Nicholas Hill, who will be providing architectural testimony with regard to the project. We'll have Robert Coluccio from Dynamic Engineering, who will walk us through the site planning and engineering of the project. We will be offering traffic testimony, and then to wrap it up, we will have our planning testimony. Also, to the extent it may come up, if there's particular questions that touch upon landscaping, we have our landscape architects who are going to be waiting in the wings for that. But Mr. Chairman, with that preamble, if you have no questions of me at this point, I would like to introduce our first witness.
You may proceed.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if
Yes.
somebody was trying to comment.
No.
Chime in.
Good.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to turn this over to introduce Terrence Murray. And so,
We're gonna try your mic.
yeah, so first of all, Mr. Chairman, is he on, I think he has to be sworn in first, please?
And can he unmute, please?
Yeah, I think you need some mute, Reggie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Murray, can you hear us?
Turn your volume all the way off. Okay. Nope, you gotta turn your volume off. You have to mute your, there you go. Nope, you gotta turn your volume all the way down. Okay, nope, almost. We're in the same conference room. Hold on.
One of the benefits of the Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, I'm going to ask everybody else to please mute themselves as we go through this so that we can get through this expeditiously.
Okay, how's that? Your volume should be all the way off. We're gonna make one adjustment to make this work.
Mr. Chairman, you know I'm usually very good at this. We're having a minor hiccup. Please bear with me. I apologize.
Somebody might have to leave the office.
I think they're gonna switch spots.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna make,
But how are we going to ask questions? And
no,
I'm here.
no, he's there.
Okay. Ignoring the name, but can you hear me okay?
That's much better, Mr. Murray.
Okay, perfect. Reggie is literally standing right over my shoulder, so not as smooth as we planned, but I think it'll work.
Okay,
All right.
let's start off. Mr. Murray, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm tell the truth for this planning board tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Terrence Murray, Terrence. Last name Murray.
Okay, Reggie, I know you're somewhere there in the internet ether. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're perfect.
All right, so I will be a disembodied voice for this portion of the proceeding. Now, also, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Wenzel, just so you know, we have, as part of Mr. Murray's testimony, a screenshot that we would like to share, which it'll be an aerial, and we will be marking that as A1 because it's not included in the board's package. So when we get to that, I'm just doing that as a preamble to that. Okay, so Mr. Murray, can you just briefly describe your current position in relation to the applicant this evening?
Sure thing. So the legal name of the applicant is Simrec Orange JV. Simrec Orange JV is a partnership between Gateway and Simrec and Ram Development. Gateway is, I'm the managing partner of Gateway. We have been around as a firm now for, as a firm, 20 years, have developed 14 projects in 7 states across the country. We've worked with Niles Bolton and Associates, our architect on this deal, on I think now 8 projects that we've done. Simrec is a Jersey-based development group, third generation development family. We have partnered with them on large projects previously, and they are partners with us on this one.
Thank you. Mr. Murray, can you just give a brief overview to the board of how you all came to this project and what the vision of it is?
Yeah, sure thing. And look, only half joking. Reggie's going to have to help me be brief on this because for me, the development resume aside, I'm an Essex County resident. My family and I have lived in the county for 11 years now, first in Maplewood, now in South Orange. So I'm literally 7 minutes away from the hospital. I've driven past it more times than I can count. I've eaten lunch at Paulie's. Some of you may know it as John's Market. I know it as Paulie's. I've stopped in that bodega on the street. I'm always back and forth getting on 280 going east or west. So for me, the location, the interconnectedness, the transportation, just intrinsic value there as a developer and an investor is just hands down perfection. But as a member of the community, just like all of you, I've driven past it for so many years wanting to see something done with the site. So when the opportunity to get involved with this came around to me, it was exciting, but it was also humbling, being that I am a community member. It's a little different, a little higher standard of care when, one, you're going to see it every day, but two, you're 7 minutes away. And, as we started looking at the site, it got very quickly from a simple dollars and cents, let's maximize density, build as many units as we can in the most efficient way possible. What we started looking at was that really, when you think about that location, this location is really the heart of Orange. This is really the town square when you really think about it. Right there at that corner of Central and Essex, you have the Central Playground, you have the schools, you have, think about it, you have a pizza restaurant, a firehouse, a baseball diamond, tennis courts. I mean, it really doesn't get any more small town America than that. And so for us to have an opportunity to really reimagine what the hospital could be as a part of this larger community effort, it doesn't overstate the case to say that it was humbling to be able to get involved with this project. So we put together a team. You'll hear from the team members that are really expert in what they do. And we went to work coming up with a plan that integrates our site into the town versus building really just a big mass and creating a fortress in the middle of town. So when we go through the site, we'll be able to show you the walking paths and the courtyards and the ice skating rink or the roller skating rink, depending on which time of year and what your particular interest is, as all of what we're trying to create as really a public amenity that we're, in a sense, giving back to the city of Orange. And as these conversations have developed over time with the city administration, the idea of bringing City Hall to the site, just furthered this idea and this feeling of really creating the town square, like recreating what all of that means with the municipal buildings, the schools, the children coming back and forth. All of that just kind of fell in place really nicely. Now, I know that at some point in this conversation tonight, we're going to talk about the historical significance of the hospital. And what I want to assure everyone of is we took a ton of time studying this. I mean, we took a ton of time. We walked every building from the ground floor literally to the rooftops, walked around the roofs, tried to really understand what could be saved, what could be preserved, and how we could make the most use of the existing facilities. No one wants to remove architecture of that vintage, right? Nobody wants to do that. But as we studied it, called in various consultants, many of you may be familiar with the redevelopment of the Jersey City Medical Center, which was redeveloped into luxury apartments. It's now known as the Beacon. Coincidentally, I used to live in the Beacon before moving to Maplewood, but we called in the architect that led that redevelopment effort. Had him do a study, walk through the buildings, really measure them, size them up, and try to figure out what could be done. And unfortunately, the answers that have continued to come back is just not much. The buildings that are there, the majority of the buildings that are there, have an immediate problem of they were built with asbestos-containing materials. And because of 20 years of neglect, vandalism, and water damage, all of that material, not all of it, but a lot of that material now is in a condition where it has to be literally removed by hand to get it out of the building. And so when you think about that from a redevelopment standpoint, it gives you a tough starting spot to get back to something that from a health and life safety standpoint works for residential housing. The second obstacle that we ran into are just the physical dimensions of the existing buildings. From the street, these are very broad, beautiful buildings. When you get inside of them, they're actually fairly narrow. As you think about hospital rooms that you've been in and how hospitals are designed, you have a lot of individual rooms on the sides of these corridors, and those rooms aren't very deep. And so just try to overlay that memory into, well, how could I fit a bed? How could I fit a bathroom? How could I fit an efficient modern style apartment unit in those dimensions? And we just have not been able to come up with a great answer for that. And so, as we studied this, the best we could come up with for the building on the main building on Essex was only 57 units, just because of how narrow that building is. So from there, we turned our attention to, let's try to focus in on the most historically significant and iconic components of the existing site. That took us to Mary Austin Hall. As many of you know, Orange Memorial Hospital was where the first nursing school for the state of New Jersey was established. Mary Austin Hall was a dormitory for the nurses that were a part of that program. The actual building that they started in is actually no longer there. And so we looked at Mary Austin Hall and thought, okay, let's find a way to save Mary Austin Hall. And that's part of how the discussion evolved with the administration about doing something architecturally insignificant for the city by preserving that building and bringing the administration to that site. The second piece we looked at is what we refer to as the boiler house. So that is, for us, just a very iconic building with the smokestack and the symmetry in the design. And so we looked at that. It has a small footprint, but has a great layout for a restaurant. And so when Niles Bolton takes you through it, they'll be able to show you how we plan to situate that on the site and how we've actually designed a building that effectively zigzags around and behind the boiler house so that it has its proper prominence and it's not just blending into the building. The last thing I'll say about our attempts to really focus in on existing architecture and make the street level experience as reminiscent of the past as possible is you'll see in the design that we're using the same style brick and brickwork on the first 2 levels of all the buildings that wrap down Essex and up Henry Street. And so as you're experiencing that as a pedestrian, what you will see is the beautiful brickwork from Mary Austin Hall and for the boiler house, but you'll also see that replicated in the facade on the first 2 levels along Essex and Henry Streets. So we have, done our best, our level best to try to honor the history of the site and really try to do something where we're adding, a real inviting community aspect to what we're doing from a public space and a design standpoint. As I said, Reggie, you have to keep me brief, so I will moderate myself and wind down. Glad to keep talking about it some more, but hopefully as we go through the design and Nick, if you have it, can we share your screen now?
Yes, I will need access to share the screen.
Okay.
Right, yeah, Mr.
There we
Raymond.
go. I have it
Yeah,
now.
got it, thank you.
So this is what I've verbally walked you through, but this is our vision for what the redeveloped Orange Memorial Hospital District will look like.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, as I introduce, this is what I would recommend is A1, marked as an exhibit. And it's for identification purposes right now. But as our architect will confirm later on in his testimony, this was an exhibit that was prepared by and through their firm. So we're using this for, identification purposes, but we can authenticate it as necessary later on as part of our testimony, if that's acceptable.
Attorney Wenzel?
Yeah, well, we can mark this as A1. I believe Mr. Murray gave an extensive overview of what this was, and so this is supportive of that testimony. So we can.
You're muted, Attorney Wenzel.
How do we? Okay, we can mark it as A1, and Mr. Murray already identified how this came about, so we can have that marked as A1 as long as this is later on transmitted from Mr. Jenkins' office to the board secretary.
Absolutely.
And just as a reminder that although we are using Nick Hill's screen, I'm going to ask everyone else to please remain silent because Mr. Jenkins is the only one that is allowed to, I'm sorry, Attorney Jenkins and Mr. Murray are the speakers at this time, please.
Thank you. And now that you all have the image in front of you, just a couple of things I want to point out, and then I'll transition and let Jeff Smith and Nick Hill, the architects, walk you through this. But a couple of things I really want to highlight. I want you to, as you look at this overhead view, I want you to look at the various points of access to the site. I want you to pay attention to the green space in that large courtyard. As we get into it, I want you to pay attention to the ground floor amenity spaces and commercial spaces that we've incorporated in to provide really community amenities to the site. The other thing that I know we'll have a question about is traffic. We do have our traffic engineer on the phone. He'll be able to walk you through some of the specifics. But the building that you're looking at the back left of the rendering that you see, is actually a parking garage. And so what we've done is we've wrapped the parking garage with apartment units. One, from an aesthetic standpoint, we didn't want to put a 7-story parking garage in the middle of this and just have people looking at cars. But more importantly, that parking garage will have its access points on an extension of Day Street. So right now, Day Street dead ends into Henry. But what we're doing is we're going to extend Day Street from Henry over to Central. And that was very important to us because, quite frankly, Essex is a very narrow street. And we thought about how do we reduce the impact of traffic into the neighborhood, right? We wanted to keep as much traffic as we could away from the schools and off of Essex Street. So we are cutting Day Street through. We're going to maintain that as a private road. And what we think that we accomplish by that is now we're pushing traffic, essentially 2 blocks north to Freeway Drive, or either immediately over to Central. So 2 main thoroughfares that are built for taking traffic in and out and taking it to 280 and the Garden State Parkway or on to Newark, et cetera. So again, we've tried to be very thoughtful about our impact to the community, how to lessen the negative impact, and how to make this an overall positive experience for all community members. So.
All right. Mr. Murray, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions of Mr. Murray at this time, and I would invite any questions from the board.
I'm going to open up to the board, but before I do, Mr. Murray, can you orient us to what's at the bottom, north, south, where we are, as to what we're looking at?
Nick, can you take your cursor and put it, go to the corner for me, Nick, right there. Okay, that is the corner of Essex and Henry Street. So if everybody can think about the M&T Bank branch, it would be right where the Niles Bolton, where that word starts. That is where the M&T Bank branch is. So this is the experience that you will get as a resident as you leave the train station and you walk down Essex. You will be walking this way towards the project. And so the brick building in the middle is Mary Austin Hall, which will be the new city hall. Immediately behind that is the skating rink. And then as you push through the site, there are walking paths that take you through this courtyard, and then actually under a building over to the smokestack, which then leads you right over to Central Playground.
Okay, that helps me definitely. And
Okay.
just for the record, it's Essex Avenue.
Yes, South Essex Avenue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm going to open up to any board members for any questions for Mr. Murray. And I see Member Foston. And I'm going to ask everyone to please mute your mics, please, because it interferes with the discussion that's going forward. Member Foston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, and thank you to Mr. Rigi for the explanation.
No, that's Mr. Murray.
Mr. Murray. Okay, they switch.
Yeah.
Right. But the objective of the project is to give back to the city of Orange. But as so far you mostly talking, and I see mostly apartment unit for like I thought that it would be a little mixed up of retails or the offices or the staff, but it seems that we're gonna have more apartment units, and also it's on the you didn't describe the size of the site, and as I think that the engineer they're gonna be somebody else to talk about the parking spaces, but the other building on the right of Essex Avenue across the street, I thought that it would be just parking. It seems that it's gonna be for apartment bill. It's gonna be another apartment units. I don't know how you can explain the utility of the other building across the street on Essex.
Member Fawcett, I'm going to interrupt you. I believe this is the principal owner, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Murray,
Yes.
as opposed to one of the professionals. I think your question should be directed to the professionals, the engineer or architect or someone to that magnitude.
Okay.
Unless, all right.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for
Mr. Chair,
Madam
Mr. Chair,
Vice President Eason, Councilwoman Eason?
Yeah. He talked about Henry Street. So on the right side, going up North Essex, is that the part? Go up North Essex. He's got the cursor there. Go all the way down. Go all the way down. Go there. Keep going. Go to your right. Go to your right. Is that the parking lot that's there now? That's gonna have a parking garage? You're too far down with the cursor.
All right.
Right there. Right to your right. Go to the right. I guess it's right. Yeah. What is that?
So today, that is a vacant parking lot. As we develop it, that will be an apartment building with ground floor amenities.
Oh, it's gonna be an apartment building.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now you talked about taking Central Avenue all the way out. I'm sorry,
Day Street.
taking Day Street all the way out to Central Avenue. So can you take the cursor and go that route?
So the cursor is at the bottom of the screen, and that's Central Avenue?
No, that should be
No, that's Day Street.
that's Henry Street, right?
No, that's
So you go
where the
so
cursor
go all
is.
the way, take the cursor to Central Avenue take North Day to Central Avenue.
That's North Day?
That's Central
That's
Central
Central.
Avenue,
Yes.
right? But I mean through the complex, take South Day all the way to Central Avenue. I'm trying to see where you take it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I see where it is now.
Okay, and I do want to point out that we do have the architect on the line. This is the overview. And so we do have multiple renderings that will help you all get more acquainted with the site. The site is just over 10 acres, so it is a large site. There are a lot of components to the site. We're glad to spend as much time as you all like going through the individual components. But definitely there are a lot of components to the site. I do want to answer one piece of the mixed use. We have just about 70,000 square feet of non-residential space programmed into the site. So that is quite a lot of non-residential space that's going to be throughout the ground floors of these various buildings. And you'll see that a little better as we go through the individual renderings.
All right, are there any other questions for Mr. Murray from any board members at this time?
I don't have any question per se, as you said, you're gonna go through the renderings and many aspects of it. Is there any other footprint as far as existing buildings that's also gonna be part of the project that wasn't part of the hospital? That's part of the project moving forward?
Yes, you can't see it from this view, but going going east on Henry Street,
Okay.
there are two houses and a funeral home that are also a part of the site. So those will be incorporated in. And then going west over to Matthews, there are two houses and what used to be a deli, but a small one-story commercial property that will also be incorporated into the site.
Okay. And I'm sure you're gonna go over the commercial or public spaces as far as and you may be the person to answer this as well. Is there sort of like a convention center place where people can hold like conventions or large events?
No, we hadn't thought of that, but no, we don't have a convention center space programmed into this.
Okay.
Mr. Murray, I guess as a homage to Orange Memorial Hospital, have you considered an emergency care or urgent care facility in this development?
Absolutely. Yes, we have. And trying not to put the cart before the horse. The buildings that you see are different sizes for a couple of different reasons. One, because it creates great sight lines throughout the site and it reduces kind of the physical imposition of putting 1,000 units in the middle of the neighborhood. So we did our best to break it up, give you different sizes and shapes. But what it also allows us to do is program the buildings in for different types of tenants. And so one building in particular, we've been speaking with a senior care provider about using that building for residents for that age demographic.
Okay.
Okay.
I have
And then-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then that building that's in the middle of the screen with the it's a there, that one right there. Yes, thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you. That one, what is that building?
That is an extension. That's an extension of the residential building that you see to the right. We refer to it as our orange cube, and you'll see it in a
Okay.
little more detail as we get to it. But as you can see on the roof, we're planning a really nice rooftop amenity there, and it kind of sits in the middle of the courtyard.
Okay. All right, Member Latour, before you go, I'm just gonna ask the public to hold off on your questions. There will be an opportunity for the public to ask any questions that you may have, but you have to wait for that time in the presentation. Member Latour.
Thank you, Chair. I know this will come up. I see a lot of rooftop. Was there any thought of sustainability as far as solar or anything to that effect, or green roofs?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Yeah, we've spent a fair amount of time thinking about both. The way we started is, and I guess maybe this would have helped in the intro when I mentioned how many projects that Niles Bolton and my team have worked on before. Everything we design to a LEED certification as our base. We don't do anything that's not LEED certified. Just as a point of reference, building we designed in Washington, D.C. was actually awarded the greenest building in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago. So we were the first residential building in Washington, D.C. to get the LEED certification at the level that we did at that time. So from a design ethos standpoint, we start with sustainability always. We put our focus really on creating an acre plus of open space in the courtyard. And that is where we focus our resources in our design work. Doing the roof turned into a kind of secondary thought because we feel really good about what we've been able to create from a green space in the courtyard, which is where residents will actually have an opportunity to experience that. Now, solar is something that you actually can get some benefits from solar, but we still have to do some more work to figure out how to price that out and engineer it into the deal. So we just hadn't gotten that far in the solar yet.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
yeah, you doing your when you give the history, you did the historicity of the site, and you said two sentences that returned my attention. The first one, you said that the location is the heart of the city of Orange, and the second statement is that that project is to giving back to the city of Orange. I want you to explain, because it's the heart of the town, meaning that is support the project that should be there, that should be a carefully planned and in many aspects. And because the project is to giving back to the city of Orange, how you explain the purpose of this project is to giving back to the city of Orange?
I'm not sure I followed the last piece of your question, but to start with the first piece about my reference to this as the heart of the city of Orange, what I'm referencing is how I experience the site. And as I think about what a small town square looks like, it looks like this to me, with the firehouse and a baseball field and a park and schools. All of that feels like the center of gravity for a town, and most certainly as the original benefactors of this hospital thought about where they wanted it placed. I'm sure that their experience with this particular location was that this was a central component of the community, and that's why they placed it here. And so for me, that, like I said, the addition of a city hall to this proximity is really kind of the most beautiful bookend to what's already in place of all of your, not all, but municipal services, schools, playground, all of it right there in walking distance. That is your prototypical walkable live, work, play community that cities were designed around, 100 years ago. And when I talk about wanting to give something back to the city of Orange, what I'm saying to you is actually the more efficient way to design this would have been 2 big rectangles and just simply maximize as many units as we could have done under the code, but we didn't do that. Under the code, I think we could have done close to 1,300 units. So I know 1,000 units sounds like a big number, but keep in mind that under the redevelopment plan, we actually could have done something closer to 1,300. So we didn't look to maximize every corner of the site and pull every nickel that we could out of this thing. We really spent a lot of time trying to think about how do we create some open spaces to invite the community in versus boxing the community out. So that's what I'm referring to when I say trying to give something back to the city of Orange for giving us this opportunity to redevelop the site.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. So Reggie, should we turn it over to the architect?
Hold on a second. Yes, Mr. Chairman, can we proceed to our next witness?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Reggie, we need to get down A1.
Yes, we're doing that right now.
Okay.
And we're changing my name back.
Mr.
Just Reggie guy.
Just Reggie.
Yeah.
I feel like you're Mr.
Okay. I take the respect.
Right,
Zoom
here we
user,
go.
please mute your, Madam Secretary, can you mute Zoom user, please? Thank you.
All right. I am back. Again, thank you. At this point, I'm just looking for him. Mr. Chairman, our architectural testimony is going to be kind of in a tag team with the architect of record, who is Jeff Smith, who will introduce the project overall, but then the details of it will be presented by the drafter, the primary drafter of the project design, which is Nick Hill. So I'm looking, we can swear them both in at the same time, or we could do one after the other. That is, that's your call, Mr. Chairman and Council.
Attorney Wenzel?
Well, why don't we try to keep it simple? Let's do the architect. I think you said Mr. Smith.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, where's Mr. Smith? Okay. Mr. Smith is also known as Zoom user. Mystery solved. Okay. Mr. Smith, do you swear affirm to tell the truth for this planning board tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Smith, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Jeffrey Smith, Jeffrey Smith.
Okay. And Reggie, why don't we get Mr. Smith's qualifications and then you can proceed.
Absolutely. Mr. Smith, can you provide the board with your current position and professional background, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. I am Jeff Smith. I'm president of Niles Bolton Associates. We're a large architectural firm of 125 people, offices in Atlanta and Alexandria, Virginia. I've worked at Niles Bolton Associates since graduating in 1986 with a Bachelor's of Architecture degree from the University of Notre Dame. I am a registered architect in good standing in 18 states, including New Jersey and New York. I have an NCARP certificate. I am LEED accredited. I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects, the Design Build Institute of America, and the National Multifamily Housing Council. I've been a registered architect for 34 years and registered in New Jersey since 2009. I've previously been accepted as an expert in architecture and provided testimony in many New Jersey boards, including in Union, Madison, and Morris Plains, to name a few.
Thank you. And can you, in addition to those qualifications, you all have designed projects within New Jersey, is that correct?
We have. Over the years, Niles Bolton Associates has designed 32 multifamily housing developments in New Jersey. In total, that represents about 6,700 homes in that state. Our projects have included apartment buildings, university dormitories, restaurants, and large-scale retail, all in New Jersey. We have built campus housing for Rutgers, for Centenary College, for New Jersey City University, and we're currently working at NJIT.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, is he accepted as a professional architect?
Yes, this board will accept Mr. Smith as an expert in architect. And Mr. Smith, please limit your testimony to that as an architect.
Thank you. And as I noted, Mr. Smith and Mr. Chairman, the plans that are being presented this evening, the architectural plans, those were done under your direction and supervision. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
The plans, yes, all the plans that are being discussed tonight and have been reviewed, they were all completed under my overall supervision. To the best of my knowledge, all the plans are compliant with applicable New Jersey State Code regs, as well as zoning and planning requirements, with the exception of the few minor site variance requests that you see identified in the staff report.
Thank you very much. And in my introduction, I mentioned that, well, you're the primary architect. Nick Hill of your office is the primary drafter, correct?
Yes, Nick Hill is our project manager on this. Nick has worked with me at Niles Bolton Associates for almost 20 years now. He has been the primary designer for this. And at this point, I think I'll let him walk us through the architectural design.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Wenzel, before we go into his direct testimony, if we can have him both sworn and we could give his qualifications as well.
Okay, Mr. Hill. Okay, do you swear affirm and tell the truth for this planning board tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Hill, can you please state and spell your name?
My name is Nicholas Hill, Nicholas, Hill, Hill.
Okay, and let's get Mr. Hill's qualifications.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Hill, can you describe for the board your current position, professional background, please?
Yes, my current position is a senior project manager at Niles Bolton Associates. I've been here for 20 years in November, and enjoy working on this project. It's very meaningful, and so I'm an NCARB registered architect. Have been for 2 years now, but I've done many projects at this firm.
So just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, he is going to be walking us through this project from a fact standpoint. And we're doing that, this tag team, because he is not a license in New Jersey. So it is to walk us through that. Obviously, if there are any questions that bleed over into opinion or that level, we have Mr. Smith for any corroboration on that. But that's why we're doing this tag team.
And that will be fine. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, you've heard the overall wind up. If you can now walk us through this project from an architectural standpoint.
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, and let me just stop you right there. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wenzel, I believe all of the sheets that are going to be referenced have been submitted to the board as part of the package. So I don't think we need to mark them as a separate exhibit. However, Mr. Hill, if there's anything that you have that is different from what we have presented, if you can identify that so we can mark that as necessary.
Sounds good.
Great. And then I'm sorry, one last thing, just by way of housekeeping, you saw that we introduced A1, which is that overall aerial and rendering of the project. Am I correct in my intro that was designed and prepared through your offices?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Hill, yes, please just get us going. Walk us through this site.
Okay. So to put together this project, we have looked at reviewed the zoning documentation, the Central Orange redevelopment plan. We have presented to the TRC and responded to their comments. We have reviewed the planning board memorandum. We have been coordinating with civil engineers, structural engineers, traffic engineers, MEP. We've met with the fire marshal and planners, and so that has been the process. And we've been doing this for quite some time. What we have prepared is a program matrix, plans, elevations, signage, materiality, perspectives, and concept unit plans. And that's what I'll be taking you through as soon as I can get this to show properly. Excuse me. Okay. I'll share my screen. So what you're seeing now, is the view from Henry and South Essex. This is Mary Austin Hall to your left. We have 1,005 units in the property. Forgive me, I cannot control this for some reason. Give me 2 seconds.
See, Mr. Wenzel, it's not just me.
No, for some reason it's Bluebeam is not wanting to play. I'm just going to do it like this versus the full screen. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, give me. So we have 1,005 total units. We've looked at this as market rate units and also through the Aspire program. We have a total of 1,246 parking spaces to service the space, and we have approximately 70,000 square feet of commercial resident, commercial restaurant, and office space. So I'll take you through the plan. This is level 1 here, and this is the most important level of the project. This is what everybody feels, what everyone touches. And so going through the redevelopment plan and the mission, we are trying to provide a center for the community to safely gather, work, play, and live. It seemed to be that was one of the main missions is safely be able to do these things in this location. So the master plan provides the public with a center, a place to safely gather, and encourages the community to gather. The plan celebrates the Mary Austin Hall and the Boiler House by making them focal points at key vehicular and pedestrian intersections of the site, and brings them back to life with new uses and rehabilitated facades that will follow the standards set forth in the redevelopment plan. I will now take you through the master plan and explain how we have enforced this mission statement. And so at the top of page, we have Henry. Going vertical here, we have South Essex. And at the bottom page, we have Central. And then what we were calling the Day Street extension is a private extension road from Henry down to Central. You'll see a lot of parking on level 1, but we also have services and things like that. We have quite a bit of grade change on the site from the corner of, we'll call it the Day Street extension, and Central Avenue. We have about a 20-foot drop from that point down to Essex. When you go, and then from here, you have about a 14-foot drop down to Central. So with working with that, it allowed us to create this amazing internal space for the public. As you can see, we have organized the commercial space along all of the streets so that we can have an active and vibrant area all times of the day. When I visited there were so many children walking around, and we're really trying to just make this a safe place for, as we're calling this, the center. So you'll see the Boiler House here. We've tried to set back our buildings far enough away that when you are present in these spaces, you are really engaging with these historic buildings. The same with Mary Austin Hall, it becomes the backdrop for when you're at the ice skating rink and when you're walking through the center of the property. We pulled back the building along Essex so that we could have a nice transition from when you're coming from the train down Essex, coming here, and then also being able to get the corner of Mary Austin Hall, so we're not just pulling buildings up and hiding these historic buildings. The smokestack is a landmark on its own. And so from all directions, you'll still be able to see that. We do not eclipse the height of that as well. We have a few different access points onto the site. One from the corner of Henry and Essex. So this is the, I would say, your main entry point from if you're on the train taking the transit. We have an access point here up Essex Street or Avenue, excuse me. And this is where we would end up with community area, food trucks, outdoor seating, things like that outside of the restaurant. You would then work your way through a gated area here into the public area. During the daytime, we have 3 gated accesses. We have one here, and one here for the public. And that is to help maintain that safety and the safe places mission here. We do have private outdoor space also because we do have units down here. So we do have another access point here off of Central for the pedestrian to come in. Each of these main access points, this one here off Essex, off of this corner, and off of this roundabout, are access points for fire. We've spoken with the fire marshal and gone through these access points, turning radiuses with vehicles. And so we have coordinated all of that. And so our planning is based on safety as well. Within this first level, we have public amenities like the ice skating rink, outdoor lawns. As we get to level 2, we have amphitheater seating here. We have the City Hall offices here, and then also the City Hall offices here. This may be support for City Hall offices, but that's to be determined. We have a nice public lobby that would be lit and vibrant all times of the day. We have some more retail commercial here that is yet to be determined as to the tenant. All of our service trash is all internal to the buildings. So there will be no trash outside of any of these properties. The only time trash would work its way out is if is when they're picking it up, and then management would then put it back in. We have 5 loading zones overall for all 3 sites. This is site A, this is site B, and then this is site C to your left. As I go through, that's how I'll reference them. Site A has a loading zone here with access to the trash, to loading elevators. We have a loading zone here off Henry between Mary Alston Hall and then this residential building. And then we have a loading zone here that will service this building. Loading would service this building here off of the Extension Road. And then we have service back here off of Matthews. Yeah, here. So, and then we've tried to put all of our service in back of house, either below grade or behind active uses, so that those aren't predominant to the experience, whether pedestrian or vehicular. We have public lobbies, and I'll go through this as I go up to the second level. We have a cafe retail, we have flex space in this location, and then a residential lobby here, and then a public lobby here, and another residential lobby in this location. Along Essex, we have, and for site C, we have the leasing lobby and amenities, so active uses along the street. And then once we go out, I'll go up to level 2 now. This is quite a grade change as we come up to the roundabout. Here is the amphitheater seating. And here is the leasing lobby for site B. Okay. The majority of level 2 for site A is residential, but we do have a 20-foot floor to 20-foot floor to floor, I believe, for level 1 for the building 200 on site A. And then we have 2 levels within this courtyard for site A for residential. as you're coming off of the roundabout here, you have a public outdoor terrace, residential lobby, leasing lobby. And again, across the street, we have the leasing lobby. Okay. I will go up to level 3. Once you come up to level 3, this now begins the residential for sites B and site C. Amongst that residential, you also have amenities, and we also have quite a bit of outdoor amenity space. So we have 2 levels of concrete and then wood construction above that. On top of this concrete is where we provide this green space, benches, grilling stations, things like that for the residents. So these are private amenities. The same on site C. You have the private amenities for them. And forgive me, I want to go back down to level 2. So we will have public and private parking within the site A parking deck. And what would happen is levels 1, 2, or however that gets kind of minimized, would end up feeding into a vestibule here, into a public lobby that would then allow you to go down into the public plaza. One of the things we've really tried to focus on is accessibility around the site. And so from wherever we are at, whether it be in parking, residential, and an amenity, we can always have accessibility and access to every portion of the internal site here, and to all the public amenities. Okay, I'll go back up. So then you come up to level 4 and above, and this is your typical residential levels, double loaded corridors with units. All the buildings will have trash chutes that are directed down towards the trash compactors in the designated locations as described. Level 5, which is also residential. Level 6, again, residential. And then we come up to level 8. Level 7 was just an independent parking level. And level 8 is your rooftop amenity on top of building 100, which will have a pool, cabanas, grilling stations, outdoor turfed green amenity areas, possibly fitness, community space for the residents. So for the elevations, I'll go through these. So this is building 100. This is the building. I'll use this as the reference. This donut building here. So elevation west is the elevation from the internal courtyard. We're using in context with what we have seen in the neighborhood, lap siding or fiber cement siding, a hardy panel. We have balconies for the units. We're introducing some warm woods which may be a metal panel or a fiber cement panel, but would have that wood tone to it and texture. And then we're bringing in the red brick, which is very predominant in this location, and trying to really, at every pedestrian experience, is red brick along the site. Elevation C is the elevation looking from the new private road or that A Street extension. And we have lifted up the buildings off of that. So we've got a 20-foot clearance so that we can get fire trucks, service vehicles, but also not have the residential right at the back of the residences that are there. Then you've got the south elevation, which is off of Central, and then you've got the north elevation, which is off of the roundabout. So building 200, this is the building that encompasses the orange box. Again, we've kept a very similar language, but on building 200, which is parallel with Essex Avenue, we have created an arched window pattern that is going to be facing Essex, and that's also going to be facing internal to the main public space and the ice skating rink. We wanted to do this to really tie it in with Mary Alston Hall and the sophistication that Mary Alston Hall brings and some of the historical detailing. Elevation south is along Central. Elevation north is the main corner of Essex and Henry, the entry to the City Hall offices. So we've really tried to celebrate this corner quite a bit so that we can have a great arrival point when you're coming from the train. Building 200 also, a few other elevations. We've tried to contrast some colors, some of the blacks and the whites, so it's not just one palette all the way through. And then this central piece really is our jewel. Everything kind of, I say it revolves around it, the residential does, but we've allowed you to be able to pass under it. It gives you covered outdoor space, 4 seasons of use to be outside. We've done that in a couple of locations. And then we have some internal signage, which we'll talk about shortly, to the site. And then building 300 of site A is the small L-shaped building, which is adjacent to Mary Alston Hall. So that is this building here. And again, along the streets and along the pedestrian, the vehicular access, we're again doing the arched windows, large windows, so that we can keep it bright, safe. You can be seen. And then again, very similar patterns with the architecture. We are bringing in a modern motif, but we're trying to break it up with materiality, so it's not just one face of material. Trying to break it up with balconies and break it up with accent materials. And then everywhere where we have amenities, we will have the storefronts or curtain wall as well. This is going to be the Site B elevation. We tried to vary this one a little bit more, especially along the street edge, so that we're getting more of a, I won't say a townhome pattern, but almost, so that we're not just doing one color. So we tried to vary the colors, similar materiality with the fiber cement, lap siding, wood textured material, balconies, and variation of windows. And just so you know, when you see these dark hatches here, this is just, we're cutting a section through the building. So this is what you're seeing beyond if you're standing in a courtyard or something of that nature. This elevation is the elevation along along Henry, excuse me. So we have a very lit, prominent corner for this building. We think this will be utilized from the pedestrian coming from the train. And then we do have some parking that is subterranean right now. So what we've tried to do is take that arched element down and just vary and break up the facade, so it's not the same, just all the way down and flat. But we will have lighting that's going to be coming from these windows, so it'll stay nice and lit along the street edge and the sidewalks. And then this is the elevation from the Day Street extension, going into the parking deck and the leasing office. One thing that we really tried to do is get the car off of the main streets and access the parking decks from internally from the site or from the roads that we are creating. so that we're not backing things up on the main streets, but within the site. So this is going to be site C. This site's a little different with the parking because it's surrounded by greenery and some residential. And so it's not as pedestrian friendly. So we've opened this parking up and not put as much of the effort here, but tried to really put more of the effort on to South Essex Avenue. And that's what you will see here is the elevation off of South Essex. And so a lot of glass, a lot of light. And we do have one, this is the only property here that we would need to come in off of South Essex, but we also have a rear exit as well. And again, no service access off of any of these main roads, except a couple of loading spots, but the loading spots will be internal. And so they would get off of the street into the site. Okay. So I'm going to go to Mary Austin Hall. So this is one we've been very careful about to bring into back to its glory days. The newer portion of the hospital, the larger portion on the south side of the building here, did connect to it, and it looks like they had cut away a portion of this building at one point to attach that building. And so the Henry Street facade would be brought back to its original, and then with the detailing, windows, everything prescribed. On the back side, we have incorporated the arched windows, this being the City Hall building. So we've tried to celebrate that entry a little bit with this, but also stay in line with the arches and the pattern that was set forth by the original architecture. And then both ends of the building would also be brought back to an original state. Did I miss the? Forgive me. Now I'll go to the boiler house. So the boiler house, we have taken a liberty and enlarged some of the windows just to make it a little bit more prominent. Right now they have smaller windows, but we're keeping the same. This is working within the same brick pattern and spacing of the columns. We did add a painted on sign that would be more of a art piece, if you will. And then trying to bring back the glory of the clear story so that we can get good light down into there. And we believe this would be a great restaurant location here. All of these buildings have been structurally reviewed also. I'll go through the signage real quick. We provided the dimensioning, the types of signage. Most of these are backlit or just a die-cut aluminum, but there'd be a reverse channel backlit sign, so it won't be flashing lights. It'll be a nice soft reflective light off the back of the sign onto the face of the building. And these are some signs for wayfinding, understanding where you are once you're in the public area. And for reference, these signs, I'll go back up to one of the elevations. These signs are notated on the elevations as sign C, or let's see, is there a, just so as you're looking through the document, you can come and find sign B and then reference back to the signage table that we have here. Just an example of the materials that we're planning to use with the red brick, the lap siding, the wood paneling, or the wood look paneling. This is a good example of a die cut sign at an entry. some hardy or fiber cement panel here, bringing in a little bit of the greenery onto the walls and special locations. And then at the stair in the center of the site on the orange, looking to do something that may be kind of a beacon in the center of the site. So when you enter into the site, you can wayfind from there. So this is a larger view of the rendering that you saw earlier to give you the overall scope of the property. Mary Alston Hall is here. South here is Henry, South Essex Avenue, and on the back side here is Central. And I'll just go through a few of the images so you can feel what we're looking at and what we're trying to accomplish. One of the things that we did on South Essex as well is we've pulled the apartments back from the face of the retail, so that we're not just creating this canyon, but we're trying to step it back and fill the pedestrian scale with the brick and the arches. The Essex and Central corner, really trying to, this is a more vehicular corner because Central is a little bit faster of a street. So we've set the building back and we brought some interest using the angles that the property has set forth. And so we're really responding to the shape of the buildings with the way the property is laid out. This is a great view, Central, South Essex, the Boiler House, and how we're trying to set up this public space here. You can see the variation in color. We've darkened this to set it back and so that your focus is really on the Boiler House, not on the residential. Aerial perspective of the rooftop amenities. This is a view as if you were walking from the corner of Essex and Henry. Yes. And you've got City Hall on your left. You've got the City Hall offices on your right, your ice skating rink or roller skating rink, depending on the season. Looking up at kind of the iconic piece here. This is a view, and I'll go back to the other page real quick. As you walk through, you can walk around the back side of the Boiler House and go under the building. And then this is the view that you would have coming out from under the building. This cover outdoor space, which would be a main entry into the offices. The amphitheater seating in the background here. And then a cafe, and everything again is still very active at the pedestrian level. And then we have some residential further to the right. Okay, so that is the perspectives, and then I'll go through the units quickly here. This is going to give you an idea of what we're thinking about as the type of units that we provide, with kitchens, washer dryer, walk-in closets, balconies, and ranging anywhere from a studio at $595, one bedrooms at $664, and some maybe at $616. There's different between the different buildings. Whatever that program needs to be for them, it will be. We're on an average of 800 square feet per unit in our matrix. And then all the way up to potential 3 bedrooms at 1,354 square feet. Okay. So let's see. We're going through the elevations unit plan. So sustainability, the way the codes are today, they really are directed towards a LEED building, just as a base code. Sustainability can come in a lot of different things, from safety to access to transit, up to solar panels on a roof. We're we're trying to give a lot of green space and kind of take away that heat island with the green that we're providing on the terraces, and provide people with a place to be and to feel comfortable and be safe and be happy and have good lives. Because I think that's as sustainable as energy, is just our personal day to day. So I will go, I'll talk about the signage. We had 3 variances noted, and I will go to the elevations real quick to note those. The ordinance talks about signage facing a street. And so the large sign that we have internally on this building is a 35-foot sign. That is internal to the site, and we've talked with Mr. Hazel about that. And so we believe that this will fall within the requirements of the site. We have another variance that was called out. It was a sign at 7'6". That's actually a mistake. It's on the canopy and it will be higher, so that will 100% comply. And then there was a variance about us having 13 signs on site A. As Mr. Murray mentioned, we're not quite sure, who all is going to be filling up the commercial space and how many spaces there will be. But the ordinance does say that we have 3. Each business can have up to 3 signs, and so I think that'll get worked out. But it would 100% be within the ordinance and the requirements.
So if I can just jump in for Mr. Hill for clarification. Yes. So where they were noted by way of question, but we are not calling them out as variances because we're saying that we are actually compliant with
that's correct.
Science. I just wanted that to be cleared for the record. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I believe that ends my presentation of the project at this moment.
Yeah. If I may, I just have a one follow-up question. In addition to those conditions we talked about, we have at least 3 other minor variances that we're seeking variances for deviations with respect to in site A, the rear yard setback and a side yard setback, as well as the waiver with regard to the street. Can you just speak to, and we're going to go through
Sure.
this, I think, with engineering as well, but can you just speak to those particular conditions, what they are, where they are, and why they are the way they are?
I can. I will start from the left to right. I'll start with site C here. And so the site is quite uniquely shaped in this location. And to get the parking stall depth and the drive aisle that we need, we needed to extend this parking slightly over the setback line. And you can see the setback line is here, and then it curves around there. The only location that it is over the setback is on the first 2 levels, the 2 parking levels, and then the residential actually steps back behind the setback line above. So that was 1. Number 2 is going to be along Central and at the corner of South Essex here. Again, a very unique property line here. What we really wanted to try to do is keep the building edge consistent and then follow with that property line. And so you'll see that the building does come over the setback line a little bit here. Okay. And then the third location is probably the most unique property line. But we're coming here and it's just this little bit of angle which pushes the setback line in. The first 2 levels off of this extension are set well back off of the property line. The only location where this encroaches is 2 levels above at the residential.
Okay. So I'm asking this knowing that, you know, you are a registered architect in your jurisdiction. I don't want to bleed over into opinion testimony, but to the extent you can, what you pointed out, we're talking small areas, right?
That's correct.
We're not talking the entirety of the project, which requires deviations in each one of these cases. And I also, in my intro, spoke about the tree area. In each one of these cases, we're only talking about isolated minor deviations that, my words, and tell me if you corroborate this, that are, it's basically dictated by the geometry of the site.
That's correct. That's correct. With the tree separation, it is allowing us to get a curb cut into a loading area. And then we also have another, the curb cut opening, instead of a 25 feet, it's 73 feet, is this location up here, where we're providing parallel parking for the City Hall offices at the front door.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, at this point, that was a lot to digest, but I would end the direct testimony, my questions of Mr. Hill at this point, and I'll invite the board's questions, any questions that they may have.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm going to open up to the board members. Are there any questions for Mr. Hill?
I have 2 questions, Chairman.
Vice Chair Jones?
Is there a deviation required for parking stall size?
No.
Also, just out of curiosity, is there any function to that smokestack now? I'm just curious.
Not to my knowledge.
That's it from me.
Mr. Hill, can you go through the bedroom count? How many 1-bedrooms, how many studios, so forth and so on? Or if someone else is going to address that? Thank you.
I can do that, and I'll bring up the matrix here. Okay, so I will go through the market rate unit matrix here. We've got studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. So for building 100, which is the parking deck, the building that wraps the parking deck, we have 30 studios, 65 1s, and 45 2s for a total of 140 total units. For building 200, which is the building parallel with South Essex Avenue, we have 62 studios, 146 1s, 87 2s, total of 295 total units. Building 300, which is the small L-shaped building adjacent to Mary Alston Hall and off of Henry, is studios are 17, 1-bedrooms are 37, 2-bedrooms 28, for a total of 82. Building, or site B, building 100, we have 52 studios, 116 1s, 75 2s, for a total of 243. And then site C, which is off of South Essex Avenue, building 100 has 52 studios, 118 1s, 75 2s, for a total of 245.
Can you give me the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom account for 100, please? I apologize.
Sure. For site A?
Building 100, yes.
That would be 65 1-bedrooms and 45 2-bedrooms.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hill from any board member?
If I may, Chair?
Member Latour?
Yes, thank you. So given that this is sort of like a campus environment and site A is where all the amenities are, would you imagine site C and B and having wanting access to some of the amenities that's in site A, and how would they, do you anticipate sort of like a cross connect or a traffic? Is there, if I park in site A, B or C, is there a concern for trying to access site A as the major site for the campus?
That's a great question. So 85% of site A is public on the ground level.
Okay.
The only thing that is private is this small area here. And we've made that private, and we have secured that with fencing, just to, since the public will be in this main zone, just to protect that zone. Well, kids to play, there's a lot of green space and stuff in here. So yes, site B and C would have 100% access to all the public amenities that are provided within site A.
And they would have to cross the street, and if they wanted to do it, for example, on Mars, so there's a activity going in site A, and they would have to cross the street in order to access those activities or amenities.
Yes, sir.
And also, I think you mentioned public and private parking. Could you give us a ratio of the public and private parking?
I think that is still that may be a question for Mr. Murray. I think that's still being worked out, trying to understand how many spaces would be needed for City Hall. And once we understand, the mix, but I do know that they would be separated with secure overhead gates for the private. And so the private and the public would be separated in that way. But at this time, I'm not really, we've designed we've come to a parking count based on commercial space, the offices, the residential and things like that. But how that's going to be segregated at the moment isn't quite
hashed out,
determined yet, but it will be.
Okay.
I'm sorry, if I may, board member, just for a clarification there, so that there is no doubt. Yes, while we are talking about allocations with regard to the public spaces, retail spaces, just wanted to be clear that with regard to the required allocation for residential, that's not changing. That those residentials will have the specific required ratio of residents to parking spaces.
Correct.
So any fluctuation is going to be on those other areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Foston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Nick, for your presentation. But as you mentioned that the city are gonna have some offices in that building, on the site, and can you describe the size of the space reserved for the city hall, or the city hall? Is the city hall gonna have a parking spaces? How many they're gonna be? And are you under what contract the city hall will have those spaces and on this side? And what type of contract do you have with the city hall to be present on this side? And also you mentioned for a larger facility like a campus, you're gonna, in terms of security, you're gonna have police presence or private security on this side?
I think a lot of these questions are an owner driven question. I'm not sure about on the contracts and the agreements that they may have.
I'm sorry, if I can interject. Yeah. Yes, I would agree. Most of those questions, Mr. Foston, are for the owner applicant. So, we could address those as necessary, but that's not within Mr. Hill's purview.
Thank you.
I will say though, that with regard to the public space, and we'll corroborate that with regard to the public space, as I mentioned at the opening, that's something that's still being discussed and worked out between the applicant and the administration in the city. So, to the extent it's not definite, it's only because we're still awaiting some input from the city itself.
Mr. Hill, you did testify that the parking, there was a couple of parallel parking spaces on, I think it's Henry Street in front of City Hall.
Yes, sir.
Are they specifically for City Hall, and is it for employees or visitors, or what's the plan for those 1, 2, 3, 4 spots that you identified?
We've designed them as courtesy spaces. And so, again, I think that would need to be coordinated between the owner and the tenant on how those are designated. And if they're temporary, drop off, things like that versus, long-term parking.
Right. And I would corroborate that they've been designated, but that's still part of the discussions that are being had with regard to the project.
And I only bring that up because there's currently parking on Henry Street that I believe some of the residents of Henry Street use the on-street parking. So that was my purpose.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Hill from any board member?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if he can answer this question.
Councilwoman?
But is there an opportunity to incorporate a small library and or renovate our library so it's in close proximity to the project within walking distance?
Thank you for your question. I think that one would also be suited for Mr. Murray.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, could you just ask him that question when you get a chance?
Absolutely. I will say though, at this point, that hadn't been contemplated. I'll let Mr. Murray speak about it as necessary, but I can say the library use in particular was not something that I think has been brought up until you have just done so.
Mr. Chairman?
Member Mobley?
Yeah, my question is if there is an outdoor performance space, let's say the city wanted to do some summer, have some summer music in the space. Is there an outdoor amphitheater where we might be able to coordinate that entertainment?
So, and Mr. Murray can corroborate this by a yes, but in terms of that amphitheater section that you find in the middle, that's one of the potential purposes of that. Again, this is a public space. As Mr. Hill said, this area in particular has been designed for public access. So that is something that could take place in that particular area. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hill, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, if there are no further questions, I'd like to bring up our engineer. And Mr. Hill, you can stop sharing your screen.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. If we can have him sworn in, please.
Okay, okay, from Dynamic, okay. All right, sir, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm to tell the truth for this planning board tonight?
I do.
Okay, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Robert Colucco, RobertColucco.
Okay, And if we can get the gentleman's qualifications and then take it from there, Reggie.
Yeah, please, if you could provide us with your current position and professional background, please.
Sure thing, Reggie. I'm a principal at Dynamic Engineering. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from NJIT. I've been working on various commercial, retail, and residential projects over the past 10 years. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is current and in good standing. Though I haven't had the pleasure of testifying before this board before, I have been accepted as an expert in numerous other municipalities in New Jersey.
Thank you. And your license is obviously in good standing.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that he be accepted in the area of civil engineering.
Just one question for Mr. Kaluka. How long have you been an engineer, practicing as an engineer?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
All right. Then this board will accept you as an expert in engineering, and your testimony will be limited to that as an engineer.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to wind you up and let you go. Can you let us know what you and your office have prepared and reviewed in connection with this application, and thereafter walk us through from a civil engineering standpoint, please?
Sure thing. We prepared the preliminary and final site plans that were submitted along with the majority of the supplemental reports. We have 2 exhibits this evening. If I get screen sharing ability, I can start with the first one, which I believe we're on 2, so I can mark it as A2 when we get there.
Please, thank you.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this first exhibit, it's titled Aerial Map Exhibit. It's dated today with north generally pointing up. The site is outlined in the center of the page in yellow, and it consists of approximately 40,003 square feet or 10.1 acres, and it is fully developed with various abandoned structures, including the Orange Memorial Hospital, which we've talked about, along with various paved parking areas. So I'll zoom in and you can see the current state of them. A little bit of a state of disrepair, which the proposed improvements would greatly help with. The site is generally surrounded by various commercial and residential uses. Just to hit on some high levels, to the north, you have Henry Street. To the right, you have the Iglesias Church. To the south, you have Central Avenue. And then to the west, you have Matthew Street. Then access to the sites are currently provided via a number of different curb cuts. You have 5 along Henry Street, 2 for the hospital, and then 3 for these smaller buildings over here. You have an additional 4 along South Avenue, 1 on the west side, 3 on the east side. You have 2 entrances to the hospital from Central Avenue on the south side, located here and here, and then you have 1 existing curb cut on Matthew Street on the west side of the screen.
Excuse me, Mr. Colloquium. What is the date of this exhibit?
Dated today, so October 23rd, 2024.
Today, okay. Thank you.
Reggie, Attorney Jenkins.
Yes.
So is this something that wasn't presented as part of the packet?
Yeah, and we had said, and he was marking it as A2.
Okay, is it more than 1 page?
This is 1 sheet. We have an additional one, which in anticipation will mark A3 when we get to it, or designated as A3, but this one is just this 1 sheet aerial.
Correct.
Okay, so other than, and just for housekeeping purposes, Attorney Jenkins, it's we just have for the engineer, we're just going to have A2 and A3, and otherwise we're relying on what's been submitted in the
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay, so we always listen to the engineers. Okay.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Attorney Jenkins.
Thank you.
Okay. Assuming there are no other questions on existing conditions, I'll move on to our next exhibit. This one is titled Site Plan Rendering. Again, dated today, October 23rd, 2024, with north generally pointing up to the top side of the page.
And again, marking this as A3, and we're talking 1 sheet of this exhibit, correct?
Correct, 1 sheet.
Thank you.
And I know Mr. Hill did a good job of taking us through the various different buildings, but I'll just give it a high-level summary. Proposed development includes the construction of 3 new buildings and the remodel of Mary Austin Hall and the boiler building on Site A, as well as 1 new building each on Sites B and on Site C. And these buildings are outlined in this darker tan color, and then the overhangs that Mr. Hill was talking about are in these lighter tan colors. From a bulk zoning perspective, the site is primarily compliant with all setback and coverage requirements, with the exception of a couple of rear and side yard setbacks that have been mentioned earlier. You have a minimum 10-foot requirement for rear yard setbacks, whereas 9.5 feet is provided for Site A and 5.6 feet is provided for Site C. Our planner can provide additional detail, but what I will say for Site A is, if you zoom in, I'll zoom in a little further because that's how far you got to go on our plans to see it. But you can see that little tiny notch there where that 9.5 feet is compared to where that 10-foot would be if this line just continued straight. And you could see this is that dark line of the ground floor and second floor plans that Mr. Hill was talking about. And then this dashed line is the overhang, which just slightly encroaches over that. And then on Site C, again, that 5.6 foot dimension is located here. Again, this property line is pretty much 90 degrees, whereas this one is angled in. If you were to rotate this to 90, you'd basically be at that 10 foot and compliant. Again, if you look, that ground and second floor here is that dark line, which is slightly over, but the dashed line is the building above, which you can see is beyond that setback requirement. And then regarding the side yard setback variance, 5 foot is required. 0.9 feet is proposed for Central Avenue. Again, as Mr. Hill noted, it's along Central Avenue. So in reality, it acts as a front yard, but technically per the ordinance code for corner lots, it's defined as a side yard. And I will zoom out and I'll go over access. So access to Site A is provided via 2 full movement driveways with this private access road that runs from Henry Street to Central Avenue. The Central Avenue side is your typical 2-way full movement driveway, whereas the Henry Street side has an ingress on the west side and an egress lane on the east side, separated by a landscape center island. And that was done to provide, some additional green space as well as a more visually appealing entrance. Access for Site B also utilizes this private road. They could either come in through Henry Street and turn here. This is the entrance to the parking garage, which is on the west side of the building in the center, or conversely, they could come through Central Avenue and turn right into the building. Site C is accessed by one of 2 full movement driveways. You have one on the east side of the building on South Essex Avenue in the center, and the second in the center of the building on the west side to Matthew Street. And then to add to Mr. Hill's testimony, per conversations with the fire official, emergency vehicle access was requested to be added through the center of the site. And this was done via 1 curb cut on South Essex Avenue, which is located towards the southwest of the page right here. And they could come along this road between building 200 under the overpasses and exit through the second curb cut, which would be to Henry Street. Regarding parking, based on the city requirement of 1 space per dwelling unit for studios, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom units, 2 spaces per dwelling unit for 3 bedroom units, 1 space per 100 square feet of restaurant area, and 1 space per 300 square feet of all other commercial uses. 1,333 spaces are required for the anticipated number of units. Of those spaces, per the state requirements of 15% for mixed use and 4% for standalone commercial use for Mary Austin Hall and the restaurant respectively, a total of 182 electric vehicle spaces are required. It was stated before, 1,246 physical spaces are proposed. With the EV state code requirements, each EV parking space shall count as at least 2 regular parking spaces for up to 10% of the required parking. This equates to a credit of 133 parking spaces, which brings the total proposed parking to 1,379 spaces, which is in compliance with the redevelopment plan requirements. Of those spaces, There are various on-street parking spaces that are proposed. There are some existing which we're looking to hold. Those are not included in those calculations. You have, a handful on the lower side of South Essex Avenue, additional spaces between building C and building 200 on the east side of the road. You have those 4 spaces we had previously mentioned in front of the Mary Austin Hall, and then another 14 or so spaces in front of building B on the north side of the building. Of the spaces that are provided within the interior of the site, there are 17 compact spaces, which equates to approximately 1% of the required parking, which is also compliant with code. As Mr. Hill also stated, I won't go over it in too much detail, but there are various loading spaces included as part of the development. What I will add to that is they are compliant with the minimum size and minimum number of required spaces. We are requesting a waiver for curb opening width along any public street. 25 feet is permitted, whereas the largest proposed was previously noted as 73 feet. That 73 feet is located at Henry Street here. And the others are for the Central Avenue driveway, which is 68 feet. The loading areas that were previously referenced, which range from about 30 feet, a little more than that. Then you have the access on South Essex as well for the fire access, which in this location is 44.8. And these wider curb openings are required in order to provide adequate turning radius for vehicles, entering and exiting these various areas. The site has been designed to be compliant with stormwater quantity, quality, and recharge requirements for both the city and for NJAC 7:8. And this was done by a vast reduction in impervious coverage for the proposed improvements that Mr. Murray was talking about. There's an overall decrease in impervious coverage as well as motor vehicle coverage of 0.35 acres and 3.33 acres respectively. And as far as collection goes, there's various inlets scattered within the courtyard area. They would collect stormwater runoff and they would discharge them to the conveyance systems within the public right-of-way. And then you also have inlets within the private access road, again, that would collect stormwater and discharge into the conveyance systems of the right-of-way. And then any clean runoff that would be collected by the buildings would discharge direct via roof leaders into the conveyance systems. And then to close my testimony, I'll touch briefly on lighting in the landscape design. There are various different pole-mounted and building-mounted lights throughout the development. Pole-mounted lights provided within the private access road. You can see those are outlined in blue here. And then we also have additional pole-mounted lights, through the center of the courtyard area to provide for, adequate illumination for pedestrians and for safety and security purposes. There's also numerous amounts of building-mounted lights, again, to illuminate the areas for pedestrians, as well as, for safety and security. And then all site lighting would be compliant with redevelopment requirements for minimum average illumination levels, as well as maximum height requirements. To touch base on the streetscape design, there are various different plantings proposed along the streetscape. We also have a numerous amount of plantings interior and along the exteriors of the site. You have numerous plantings within the courtyard area, and then we've added buffer planting along the southern and the eastern property lines to provide additional screening to the neighboring uses. Street tree requirement, per the code, they're required to be spaced at a maximum of 40 feet apart. For the most part, the design is compliant with this requirement, with the exception of a couple of areas. This includes the emergency fire access between the restaurant and building 200, which is here, again, to provide that compliant turning radius access for the fire vehicle. You have the Site C driveway to the parking area out at South Essex Avenue, again, to provide adequate vehicular entrance and sight distance coming in and out of this driveway. You have the driveway at Henry Street, again, for the opening here, and then an additional area to provide those street parking spaces, which we felt were beneficial in front of the municipal use building. What I will say here, though, is there are smaller plantings that are planted within the property limits. So that was designed to meet the intent of the ordinance for that 40-foot spacing. And Mr. Jenkins, I believe that covers my direct. If you have any questions for me before we answer any questions the board may have.
Yeah, just one follow-up question with regard to the parking that you were touching upon. Just to state the obvious, it's your understanding that we will have a compliant number of ADA spaces too, is that correct?
Correct. Compliant number of ADA spaces and compliant ADA access, both within the site and along the sidewalk areas, yes.
Thank you. I did not want that to go by untouched. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I have no further direct questions of Mr. Colucco at this time.
All right, and we're going to open up to the board members. Are there any questions for Mr. Colucco?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Member Mobley?
Okay.
First, let me thank Reggie for making that, catching the ADA, because that was going to be one. So I'm glad you caught that one. My second one is where he talks about the conveyance system pushing the rainwater out there. Can you describe that a little bit more, the conveyance system?
Yeah, the existing conveyance system are your existing stormwater structures that are within the streets already. So as it is on existing conditions, there's various inlets that convey it there, or surface runoff that conveys it there. By adding in the reduction in impervious, we've designed the site such that per 7:8, we would make sure that we would reduce any stormwater runoff to those specific conveyance systems, so you don't go over existing conditions at any point in time, which would be compliant with I believe 7:8 5.6.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Member Foston.
I want to thank you, Mr. Colucco.
Perfect.
Presentation. I want to know, first of all, 1,200, 12,000, it's 12,146 parking spaces, right?
1,246.
Okay. Yes, but you have 182 electric vehicle spaces. But if we wouldn't have all those 182 electric vehicle on those spaces will remain vacant, or what we gonna do? And also, I need you more clarification on the lighting and waste management and the sewer system, please.
To answer your first question on parking, we have a traffic engineer that can further explain the EV spaces, but ultimately it would be tenant based on need for the EV. But in either case, we need to provide a certain amount to meet state code. And then you had a question on lighting. We're compliant with the height requirements and the minimum illumination levels per the code, so we're not requesting any variances there. So I think that addresses that. And then as far as sanitary sewer, we have connection points for each of the buildings, and we would be responsible for obtaining approval by both the MUA and by NJDEP for this type of development. So we would run that design by them for approval.
And are we gonna manage the waste? You're gonna use private company, or are we?
Yes, I believe Mr. Hill noted that, but it would be private. Reggie, correct me if I'm mistaken.
At present, that is correct.
Any other questions for Mr. Colucco from any board member?
If I may, Chair.
Member Latour?
Yes, Mr. Kaluko, thank you for your testimony. If you can zoom into the by the boiler house courtyard or the sitting area, I believe that's an entry point for traffic. Is there any thought for some decorative security balusters or something like that to protect that area from vehicle mishaps?
Uh, for for this specific, it was designed just for emergency vehicles. For a fire truck in an emergency situation. Um, if it's specifically requested by the fire official, we can add that, but I don't think they've requested it at that time or at this time.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit scared that if there's any vehicle traffic there and then there's seating area, that there should be some kind of security measures there thought about for the someone who's sitting there.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially that area. Yeah, if an emergency vehicle coming in and yeah, the sitting area should be protected from any vehicle traffic.
Yeah, and again, just for clarification, Mr. Kaluko, confirm if I'm correct. Again, this is not for open access for everybody. This is not public. This is very limited, particularly with regard, as you pointed out, emergency and maybe the collection of food delivery.
Correct.
But this is not a public circulation pickup drop off.
That is correct.
So
Yeah.
not to take away from your question, which is a good question, but I think it is given the limited scope of it, it may not rise to the concern that you raised, coupled with the fact that this was also done in direct consultation with the fire department.
Yeah, I would still suggest that some security measures, even decorative. I've seen large concrete balls that they could use as sitting areas that served as safety measures for any vehicle traffic as well, put in the space, just separating, giving some solace to families who are sitting and having dinner there. And as you said, it's not just for emergency; it could be for vehicle for delivery as well. But I would encourage some security measures be thought about for that space.
And I think I can represent that we can definitely look at that. And obviously that would have to be in consultation with the fire department because that's who, as I mentioned, we designed for. But absolutely, I hear your concern. We hear your concern, and we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a nice area, so I would make sure that everyone sitting there and enjoying the space are also feeling secure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenkins.
Chair, if I can intercede a second, just so I can clarify something.
Yes. Attorney Wynn.
Attorney Jenkins, are you stating as a condition of approval that your client would agree to interface with Orange Public Safety, Fire, Police in terms of ensuring pedestrian safety at those locations?
Yeah. It's if I'm hearing that, it's like we will look at this in consult and we'll consult with them with regard to this. Absolutely.
Right. If they suggest that some further measures should be taken, you'll work with them in consultation.
Correct.
I think that goes to Mr. Latour's issue.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback off of Member Latour's issue, I think that would be a wonderful issue, a wonderful safety measure for anyone that's enjoying the outside view with the possibility of a vehicle going astray. The question I want to ask you, Mr. Kaluko, the extension of South State Street.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was testified earlier that that's a roundabout. So if someone is traveling south on Day Street,
mm-hmm.
and they're coming in through the property, do they have to go around the roundabout or can they continue straight?
They can continue straight past the roundabout and continue down the access aisle. If they did come in through the roundabout, we have added, stop bar for safety purposes. So they would have to
Okay.
stop here and confirm it's
All
clear before leaving.
And I'm so glad you zoomed in. Can you go over to Matthew Street?
Sure.
Because Matthew is currently, along with Frankfurt, which comes down from Lincoln Avenue, are both one ways. Is that the plan for it to remain that way? And if so, will there be signs that direct people coming out of the parking area to only go right because it is a one-way?
If it is a one-way, we haven't contemplated changing that. So we could add signage. I could also defer to our traffic engineer, who I believe is
Okay.
next.
And Mr. Chairman, I can jump in and say the answer to that is yes and yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Kaluko? Thank you very much for your testimony, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much at this point.
Sorry, I had one question for Mr. Kaluko. Sorry.
All right, Vice Chair Jones. Mr. Kaluko, you still available?
I'm still available, yes.
I thought you went home or something.
Could you, for the design waiver for the curb cuts, you mentioned there were two other ones, 130 feet and 144 feet. Can you just tell me where they were again?
Sure. You have the fire access curb cut, 44.8 feet here. And then the other curb cut is at the entrance to Central, which is 68 feet here.
You're not
And
sharing.
then you have sorry. Can you guys please allow me to share again?
Got it?
I do now. Yes. Okay. All right. So you have the 44.8, which is the fire access, which is on the southwest side at South Essex Avenue. If you scroll up a little bit, you have the loading area. That's 31.1, more towards the center. You have the driveway at Central Avenue, which is 68 feet. And I believe you have the other loading area to Henry Street, which is 34 feet.
I had one that was, 73 feet on Henry Street.
Yep, 73 is the main access to that private access road we were talking about.
68 feet on Central Avenue.
Correct.
And then 30 feet on South Essex.
Yep, 31.1.
31.1 and 44 feet for fire access.
Yep, 44.8 feet. Correct.
And that's it? That's it, right?
Yeah, and then the other 34 foot on Henry for the other loading zone.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kaluko.
Okay. Mr. Hughes, are you available?
Yes, hello, everybody.
Thank you. If you can be sworn.
Oh, okay, I see Connor. Okay.
Yep, right here.
Okay. Do you swear, affirm, tell the truth for the planning board tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Certainly. My name is Connor Hughes, Connor. Last name Hughes.
Okay, so Attorney Jenkins, let's get Mr. Hughes's qualifications.
Yes, Mr. Hughes, could you oblige us, please?
Certainly. So I'm a project manager at Dynamic Traffic, where I've worked for the past 7 years. I have a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from NJIT as of 2017. I'm a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2021. My license is still in good standing, and I perform hundreds of traffic impact studies for various different commercial, residential, mixed use developments throughout the state. And I've been accepted as an expert witness at over 30 boards throughout the state, including neighboring towns, Newark, West Orange, Bloomfield, just to name a few.
And I'm sorry, how long have you been practicing, Mr. Hughes?
7 years.
7 years.
Yep.
And this is your first time in Orange?
Yes, it is.
Welcome you to Orange, and we'll try to take it easy.
Thank you very much.
This board will accept you as an expert in traffic engineering,
Yes.
Correct.
and your testimony will be limited to that as a traffic engineer.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes, could you, again, just walk us through what you and your office have reviewed and prepared and provide your professional testimony with regard to traffic and traffic impact for this proposed site?
Yes, absolutely. So we were retained to perform a traffic analysis of the proposed development. We prepared a traffic impact study, which is dated July 22nd of this year, 2024, submitted to the board for review. I guess I'll just get right into the guts of it. We kind of already went over the access points, how that's all going to work, the Day Street extension and how that connects to Henry Street through to Central Avenue. So I'll leave those details out for now, but certainly if there's any specific questions when I finish up, I'd be happy to go through that in more detail. But as far as the traffic study is concerned, the first step is establishing our existing conditions. And in order to do that, we did a review of the surrounding roadways, the surrounding intersections to determine the specific areas that would be most impacted and analyze those areas, specifically at 3 of the surrounding intersections, namely Central Avenue with South Essex and Jackson Street, South Essex and Henry Street, as well as Henry Street with South Day Street. So we analyzed those 3 intersections during the weekday morning and weekday evening peak hours. Specifically, we did those counts on Wednesday, March 13th of this year, from 7 to 9 in the morning and 4:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon, to be coincident with the peak hours, not only of the typical rush hours of the adjacent roadways, but also the typical peak hours associated with the specific uses that are being proposed. So once we have those counts established, what we do is isolate the highest single hour during those count intervals, and we use that as our analysis period for the purposes of the report. So once that's established in the existing condition, now we look to the future. The first step of that is looking at the background growth, or what we call the no-build conditions. So that takes into account area population growth, other area developments. And we actually did note one specific development north of the site, Pinnacle Orange Crossing, which is 90 residential units. That's at the corner of South Essex and Freeway Drive West. We specifically did take into account the trip generation associated with that project, which I think it's built now, but it was still under construction when we did our counts. So we projected traffic for that, as well as using the NJDOT published background growth for a period of 4 years. Usually we do 2 years, but based on the size of the development, we wanted to project that a little further out. So again, background growth for 4 years. That establishes our baseline future conditions. And then what we look to do is analyze the potential or the projected trip generation associated with the development itself. So to do that, we referenced ITE 11th edition land uses for the apartments, the commercials, as well as the restaurant uses, all standard ITE rates for those, to establish the trip generation for the actual development, and add those onto the future baseline no build traffic volumes to project our future build condition with consideration of the site traffic. So there's a couple different components in this case. So due to the mix of uses, there's what we call internally captured trips, where somebody might park at the site and have the opportunity to visit not only the residential, but also the commercial or the restaurant portions of the site. There's a lot of interactions in between all the different uses that allow the vehicle trip generation to be reduced in that sense. So we did account for internally captured trips, which reduces those vehicle trips a little bit. And then as far as the retail and restaurant uses are concerned, there's also what we call pass-by traffic associated with those types of uses where it doesn't necessarily generate completely new vehicle trips. A portion of those trips are vehicles already traveling past the site that now, with the presence of those retail and restaurant uses, may decide to turn into the site and leave and continue in the direction that they were already going. However, being that this is more of a urban setting, we don't anticipate a lot of vehicle traffic for these particular uses. It's more going to accommodate local pedestrian traffic, walk-in traffic, things of that nature. But just to be conservative, we did not take into account any of those pass-by trips. And getting into the actual numbers, so
Mr.
during
Khan,
the
can I
morning-
interrupt you for a minute? What
Yeah.
was the date of your report?
Sure, it's let me just double check. July 22nd, 2024.
22nd.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Of course. So getting into the actual trip generation numbers for the number of trips, when you add all the different uses up and incorporating the internally captured trips, we're left with a total of 183 entering trips in the morning, 382 exiting trips, for a total of 565 new trips during that morning peak hour. In the afternoon, that's 348 entering trips, 252 exiting, and 600 total new trips during the PM peak hour. Now, I can understand that those numbers sound a little scary, sound a little high, but there's a few different aspects that I want to go into as to how it's going to operate and why it's going to operate efficiently. First one being that there's obviously a lot of mass transit nearby. Not only is there a number of bus stops at each of the intersections that we studied directly adjacent to the site, but you have the train station, the Orange train station, just about a half-mile north, which will certainly be a popular amenity for residents to avail themselves of. So we conservatively did not take any specific credit for any mass transit usage. We just wanted to provide the most conservative analysis possible. But I just wanted to point out that that certainly will be an aspect that reduces vehicle traffic to a degree. Again, as I mentioned, the ground floor retail commercial uses also will likely attract some foot traffic, but we did not take any specific consideration for that or the potential for pass-by trips associated with those commercial uses. So we feel that those numbers are a fair bit conservative, but again, wanted to present just a conservative analysis to provide that factor of safety that in the event the numbers are a little off, that we have that comfort level that things will still operate in an efficient and safe manner. So once we have those trips, we distribute them accordingly to the adjacent intersections based on existing traffic patterns, based on main travel ways. Was mentioned earlier by Mr. Murray that the Day Street extension will be a helpful factor in driving traffic away from the main thoroughfares of Essex Avenue and also minimizing any impacts to the school activity that's just to the west with the 3 schools over there. So taking all that into consideration and the distribution of the traffic across the area, we looked at the future operating conditions and compared those to the no build to determine the impacts of the project. And what we found is that compared from no build to the build conditions, so without the site traffic and then with the site traffic, there was effectively very minimal to no changes in the delays and levels of service at any of the study intersections. So essentially what that means is perceptively the traffic conditions will remain close to what they are today. Even with the number of trips being generated, again, it's very well dispersed throughout the various intersections. You have the Day Street extension driving traffic away from the more congested areas as well to help with that. And also just the mix of uses being complementary to one each other helps to offset some of that as well. So again, from no build to build, it is effectively little to no change in the delays based on our study. And then getting into the site layout, our engineer kind of went through that already. So I'll spare the details on that as well, but we're in compliance with the parking with the consideration of EV credits. We're also in compliance with the parking stall size, aisle widths, and all of those measurements. So I think with that, that covers all of my directs, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I have no direct questions further from Mr. Hughes at this time.
All right. I'm going to open the questioning for any board members that have any questions for Mr. Hughes. Member Foston?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, sir, for the presentation. But the traffic remains a great concern in the township of Orange, and many residents are complaining about even though we have some studies, but after traffic studies, after they never been respected after completion of the project, and it's not just about the existing condition of the traffic. And this area where the site is located is already a jam traffic area. And it's not just about the existing condition, but if the project is working the way they pursue to they foresee the project to be implemented, you're gonna bring more than around 20,000 more cars in this area. If you look in South Essex and Central Avenue, it's already a tough situation for people living there and for people crossing those areas. And also the exit off 280 from west and east. This is a very heavy situation. I think that you have the hardest part of the job, and I don't know how you
I
gonna
agree.
be the resident of Orange to cope with that.
Certainly. So just to point to a couple of things, obviously we do understand and acknowledge that certainly there is, existing congestion. It's an urban area. Of course, there's going to be traffic during those peak hours, those rush hours. But we are implementing ways to help offset and limit the impacts from the project. Again, as I mentioned, with the Day Street extension going in, that helps eliminate any direct access to South Essex. That also helps to disperse that traffic away from those congested intersections to a degree. And again, from what we found in our analysis, the impacts with the site traffic are essentially the same as what they would be today. And even going beyond our project, of course, there's going to be beyond ours future developments as well. They would have to then incorporate, traffic from our site along with any other developments and analyze the conditions at that point in time. So it's, a continuing effort as time goes on to make sure that the existing infrastructure and the traffic at those points in times are properly accommodated.
Mr. Khan, if I can just do just a quick follow-up, and not to be pedantic about it, but again, just by way of reminder, you would agree this is overall a compliant site with regard to parking requirements, density, and layout, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you heard Mr. Murray's initial testimony with regard to the proposed scope of it, in that this potentially could have been larger, but it's actually, it's been made, smaller and more accommodating. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
So does that also support and bolster the testimony that you're giving this evening, that at the end of the day, this remains a workable and not an egregiously impactful site?
Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, I have to, because part of this development is abutting directly with a school,
Mhm.
and there's two other major schools within the walking distance.
Mhm.
And you have a middle school which houses all of the 8th grade students in the city. So you have students coming from the north, probably traveling down that new South Day Street. It'll take them right to Central Avenue. But there's also buses where children are picked up.
Mhm.
Has that been considered? Has that been looked at? Has that been acknowledged in any way?
Sure. So a couple things. First thing is that the Day Street extension is going to be a private road only for residents and users of the site itself. There'll be signs posted to alert drivers of that. So we aren't allowing, or we are not looking to permit cut-through traffic in that sense. They would still travel to the schools or elsewhere via their current routes. As far as buses and school traffic, that was accounted for during the conduct of our traffic counts, particularly in the morning during that overlap from 7 to 9 when those arrivals occur, in conjunction with the peak hour of the site. In the afternoon, our site would peak typically after the peak activity associated with the schools, usually, between 2 to 4 o'clock. There's, varying, staggering dismissals happening, after school programs, things of that nature, which help to stagger the school activity. But it effectively wraps up for the most part before the peak hour would occur, not only for the rush hour of the roadways, but also the peak traffic associated with the site. So just based on the characteristics and operations that we would project for the uses proposed, it helps to complement what's going on in the area with the school traffic, in the sense that it is outside the typical peaks associated with the school arrive or drop-offs and pickups in the afternoon period.
Okay. And I know that Attorney Jenkins confirmed that the signage would be taken care of as far as Matthew Street. Do you have any concerns with Matthew Street
No
as
concern.
professionally
Right.
speaking?
Yeah. No concerns. We do note that it is one way. It's proposed to continue to operate as one way. And we can certainly post the appropriate signage to ensure that drivers are aware of that restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr.
Member Foston?
Yes. Do you have did you propose any change from the Henry Street to Central Avenue, and like one way instead of two-way streets on that particular?
No, none of the surrounding roads, none of the orientations would change. They would all remain two-way, with the exception of Matthew Street, which is a one-way existing and will continue to operate as such. But Henry Street, South Essex, Central would all continue to operate as two-way. And same thing with the Day Street extension along the inner part of the site would also be two-way.
You missed something from the explanation you just gave, because the first presenter said that this location is the heart of Orange, meaning that it's not just when the school is running, but they are field, they are like they are like a recreation center in this area, meaning that even after school, kids still moving in this area, meaning that this is one of the areas people moves a lot. That meaning that all day, I've been in Orange for long ago, so this is one of the tough areas in terms of traffic. So as you said that this project gonna bring back advantage to the town. I think that in this particular area that we can take it a little deeper and to not to worsen the situation.
Certainly. And yeah, and we do acknowledge, of course, there's a lot of pedestrian activity, not only with the schools, but we're looking to promote, pedestrian traffic to the site with the plaza in the middle, the ice rink, the various amenities that are available to the public. And in combination with that, there is a number of, pedestrian facility enhancements being proposed as part of the use of new sidewalks. There's bump outs at the intersection, specifically Henry and South Essex, to help slow those vehicles down as they are turning around the corners, things like that. So we feel that the design that's being presented does provide a safety measures for the pedestrians, even with the additional traffic being generated. We'll be able to operate safely in tandem with that pedestrian traffic.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, Member Latour.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. I think I agree with Mr. Member Austin. You have the hardest job. And I don't want to speak for him, but I think the reason why is adding 1,000 unit and the purpose of revitalizing this area is actually to bring more traffic, both vehicle and pedestrian. So that's gonna happen. And my question is, on Essex and Henry, do you propose the traffic, both the traffic visibility and the pattern of the traffic light to be enhanced and changed? I go through that. I've been going through that area for 10 years. I know the pattern throughout the day, evenings. I vaguely remember when the hospital was open, and I remember the traffic, and this is a totally new purpose with restaurants and public spaces and town halls. Those are gonna be heavy, both pedestrian and traffic areas. So do you propose that traffic light, because it's a major throughput for not only for the highway, but also for those restaurants that's being proposed?
Sure. Just to confirm, which intersection are you referencing? You said
Henry and
Essex
Essex.
Henry and Essex. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we aren't proposing any changes to the traffic signal that's currently there. Based on what we found from the numbers that we ran and the analysis that accounts for, the traffic volumes that are existing, as well as the future, as well as pedestrian crossings. We didn't find there to be any necessity to changing the timing at all. It seemed to operate, in an efficient way. Obviously, during those peak times and rush hours, there's going to be some added congestion. That's just how it goes in an urban congested area, especially downtown. But from our findings, we don't anticipate any need to change the signal timing there.
But also, Mr. Hughes, if I can just jump in, regardless, this applicant doesn't control the lighting. So
yeah, I was asking if he proposed a new.
Sure. No, I just wanted, I just wanted to be clear that even if there was something that we would be able to do that, we don't have jurisdiction over that. Obviously, if the city needed to look to make changes, that's within their purview. But I just wanted that to be clear. I didn't want us to overpromise for ill purpose. or, for no purpose.
Yeah, and I'm just surprised to see that it wouldn't be proposed because I mean, with his analysis, he did testify that there will be increase in traffic pattern based on the anticipated use of the site. Logically speaking, it's going to be more and more usage, and the current traffic pattern doesn't even meet the needs of before the proposed project. I'm there all the time, and I get stuck in that light continuously. And with the added usage, which is great for the community, as Mr. Austin said, and as a testimony of your previous testimonies, yes, it's gonna be the heart of the city. And I would imagine that a proposed change to the traffic light be part of your testimony, but it doesn't have to be as Mr. Jenkins says. But I would have imagined that it should be. Thank
Yeah,
you.
understood.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Member Mobley?
Yeah, I have a question for the engineer, and I wanted to just follow that up and ask, has there ever been a time when you've done a study and you have proposed changes to the traffic light timing?
Yeah, there certainly has been studies where that's the case. Usually when it does happen, it's a product of there being a lot of existing congestion that basically it's, an issue that is created not necessarily by the site traffic itself, but rather the existing congestion. And then with the addition of the traffic, it just pushes it over the threshold for needing those changes. But
so let's suppose we did see, once the project's built and we actually see the actual traffic and we start to see these large backups, what could the city do at that time?
They could investigate the timing itself to see if maybe, giving some more time to Essex versus Henry could help the situation. It is an old traffic signal, obviously. There's not a lot of new technology with it. It's pre-timed, which essentially means it's on a fixed cycle length and a fixed green time for each approach. So pretty much no matter how many cars approach from Henry Street or South Essex, it's the same timing every cycle. So what the city could do is maybe look to implement some actuation features where it could, they could install cameras to potentially isolate the movements as they back up to call more green time, to allow it to work more efficiently.
All right, thank you. So we at least have some options if we need them. Thank you.
Of course.
All right,
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Hughes, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yours as well. Thank you.
Attorney Jenkins, before we go further, I just need to take care of some administrative issues because we're at the 10/28 timeframe, and I know we have a need to extend this. So I'm just going to ask, is there a motion to extend?
Well,
Okay.
before we, if I can, Chairman.
Yes, please, absolutely.
Okay, so I think that we just concluded the questioning of the traffic engineer.
That is correct.
So and just as a refresher, we don't often have this situation, but normally the situation is that once we hit 10:30, the board does not take any new witness. The point of extending normally is to allow a witness to finish. So along those lines, Chairman, let me ask Attorney Jenkins a procedural question.
Absolutely.
Reggie,
I have one more witness.
okay, and that's your planner?
Correct.
Okay. Chair, obviously we have the planner and you have, as we normally do, we have Mr. Catalane, whose name I always butcher, and Mr. Hazel, on behalf of the board, provide their input, and I'm sure you're aware that there are many members of the public who are present and obviously interested in the project. So along those lines, Chair, and then and the other point is that we have our the 11 o'clock deadline. So I know that Attorney Jenkins is very deft at getting his testimony in and done in an expeditious fashion. But clearly it doesn't seem to me, Chair, that we're going to be able to get to the point of finishing all of this tonight. So I leave it to you, Chair. Obviously, Attorney Jenkins has his one witness, and then we have what's obviously left, as I indicated. So I just want to make the board aware of that in terms of what we're dealing with. And it kind of goes along with the point I always make to all of you that no good decisions are made at planning boards or at bars after 11 o'clock at night.
I concur.
Y'all are going to the wrong bars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and obviously there's and Chairman, and I think Attorney Jenkins will understand this as well. It appears there's many members of the public.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
and we certainly don't want to not
Right.
provide them with a full opportunity to have their opportunity
Right.
to speak. I
Yeah.
know Attorney Jenkins would agree with
You got to
me
come back.
on,
Yeah.
on that piece. So let me and Chair, I know I've been vamping here for a second, but I kind of been doing that to see. I was giving Attorney Jenkins some time to double check with his people while I was doing that. I think he finally picked up on my clue.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask him procedurally what he wanted to do first, Chair, if I may.
yes, absolutely.
So I obviously hear the concerns, and I guess the most immediate question is, what would be the soonest availability if we stop tonight that we would be coming back to the board?
Madam Secretary?
The next available board meeting to carry it to would be November 14th, Thursday, November 14th.
And that is
Oh.
our next.
Yes, that is our rarely scheduled meeting,
Mhm.
which was moved from November 20th to November 14th.
Right.
Proper notice was published to the newspaper expressing the changes from our regular meeting being changed from November 20th to November 14th.
Is there in any way
Mr.
the possibility of a special meeting at any point sooner to have this concluded?
I don't, okay, Madam Secretary, because I don't know if we can meet the 10-day notice.
We have a conflict with meeting on the certain days because of the other boards that meet.
Right.
The time is constrained there.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Hold on, Councilwoman. I'm going to see where Attorney Jenkins wants to go.
Bear with me for 1 second.
Okay, so Councilwoman Easton? Councilwoman?
no, I was looking at my calendar, and then this is a continuation of a application. I'm in agreement that I don't think we need to wait till November the 14th. So is there a special meeting we could do? I'm looking at next week. What do we have on for next? Do we have to? Being this is and this is for the attorney. Being this is a continuation of application. Do we have to wait the 10 days?
So
Yes.
I mean, if I could,
Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Attorney Jenkins.
my position is that if we are making a public announcement this evening as to a date certain, then we don't need a separate notice and or the a 10-day notice of that. So first of all, I thank Councilwoman Eason for that recommendation and that suggestion. So, but that's my position. If we're carrying it, if we're continuing it, we don't need separate notice.
Attorney Wenzel?
Yeah, so I would agree that the in this set of circumstances, I'm sure that this is not exactly what Attorney Jenkins was saying, but let me say this, the applicant in such circumstances would not have to renotice. However, I do believe it presents a problem for the board to set a date. I mean, it's October 23rd. So if we were to set a date, we have to provide sufficient notice to the public, because they would not know that that meeting is one of our regularly scheduled meetings. It would be a special meeting. You know, we have to take that in consideration, especially considering the fact of the fact that, quite honestly, there is public interest of significance in this matter, and I think it would be appropriate that there be sort of belts and suspenders in terms of notice here.
Madam Secretary? The dates?
I am going to go with Attorney Wenzel's suggestion and the board decision. But the next planning board meeting is November 14th.
And just for discussion's sake, what would be 10 days from today? What would that date be? Is it 10 calendar days or 10 weekdays? What is that?
All right.
It's 10 days.
10 straight days? Not? Okay.
And if the board was inclined to do so, it would be for, oops, wait.
Monday the 4th would be,
But we meet on Wednesdays, so,
so
um,
right now it'd be Wednesday the 6th.
yes. Is it Wednesday the 9th? I'm sorry.
No, it'd be Wednesday the 6th.
I need an extra day for notice, because yeah, I have to publish 2 newspapers. I need an additional time for notice.
That actually is,
Give me one second, please, Chairman.
Attorney Wenzel, correct me, that would be 13 or 14 days.
Well, I think Ms. Reyes is trying to work out logistically when that notice would go out. And I would just put one asterisk on this, Chair.
Yes.
Obviously, a very important date happens on November 5th.
Yes.
If you haven't voted, you should vote, and that's the last day to vote. So very important to vote. And
this might be even more incentive for everybody to vote early.
Yeah, really. But because it's election day, I would just think that Ms. Reyes would have to just double check, because sometimes when we have an election day happen, some other meetings get pushed back and forth.
Okay, it's just my concern that I don't want to rush the public or any parts of this application. So we're
Not
going
only
to.
that, Mr. Chair, the 6th would be the council meeting, because
Oh.
the 5th is election night, which is
Okay.
our Tuesday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another quick question. So our next scheduled meeting is on a Thursday and not Wednesday?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because I think a board, another board is meeting on that Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the isn't that the municipal council conference down in Councilwoman?
You're right.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
we're the
Chairman?
next week. No, we go the 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
Attorney Wenzel.
Yes, I was just reviewing our,
You,
no, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're here. You go ahead.
Okay, all right, Ms. Reyes was yelling at me. Okay, so part of the fundamental problem we have here is our own guidelines,
Right.
which require the double newspaper notice,
Mhm.
which includes the rural service, which will not meet that deadline. So realistically, we can't do it any earlier than the 14th. You know, and I understand that that presents, I understand that Attorney Jenkins would like to see if we can do it sooner, and this board has always tried to be very accommodating, but I just don't, procedurally, we just don't have that opportunity for this.
Okay, understand. Madam Secretary, what does the agenda look like for the 14th?
it's possible to
Okay.
hear this application and the second application that will be listed.
Okay,
There will be two applications. This carried and a new application.
right. Okay, so as soon as Attorney
Mr.
Jenkins,
Chairman,
Councilwoman Eason.
I'm just gonna, if you decide that as you notice, this is gonna take a long, because you could have quite a few public members that's gonna wanna speak at the next meeting. I would suggest that if you're gonna do it at the next meeting, that everything else be moved to a different date and just deal with this application. So we are not here all night again. I would suggest that you move everything else to the next meeting. And if we're gonna do this one on the 14th, the 14th, that we dedicate this whole meeting just to the Orange Memorial Hospital because it's so important.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Well, let me just double check something with Ms. Reyes. I'm sure she's, oh, I think she answered my question, which is that we have the convenient convergence of the fact that the 14th, we also were going to be graced with Attorney Jenkins in any event. It's like,
think he'll be willing
Groundhog
to-
Day.
Do you think he'll be willing to change?
We're gonna have Attorney Jenkins no matter what. Chair, I would say this. Let me interface with Attorney Jenkins maybe tomorrow and see where he sits, because obviously that's another application he has. I believe that perhaps Attorney Jenkins may have already sent out or maybe preparing to send out notices for that applicant.
Right. So one other thing that, oh, you know what, actually, just one point of clarification with regard to your notices, the notice that we're talking about for the board wise. Is it your rules for 10 days or is it, because I would think it's a 48-hour notice requirement.
Yeah, that's for the municipal council, it will be 48 hours. But for something like this, I would adhere to our 10-day.
Just wanted to bring that up. Okay.
So Attorney Jenkins, what do you say on the 14th? You have a case that's going to be heard, or have you noticed, or where are we with that application?
Bear with me, please. At present, that is not on my calendar. So I don't believe that wait, so the 14th?
Correct.
Or the 13th. I'll put it to the importance of this, I think, A, trumps it, but B, I don't think we've even noticed for that yet anyway. So this, I would say we can green light this.
Yeah.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, you see?
Amen.
All right.
Sounds like the A-team.
When have I never accommodated you?
That's why we keep having you back.
So let's round this back, and I'll play the role of Murdoch. Okay, so let's round this back. So this application is being Attorney Jenkins, for the purpose of the record, you're agreeing to the continuance of this matter to November 14th, and you're waiving the time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. There will not be a need for this applicant to renotice. There will not be, so the members of the public know, you will not receive another letter in the mail or a posting in the newspapers from the applicant with regard to this application. This is the notice. This matter will be on for November 14th, which is a Thursday. November 14th is a Thursday. I double check myself. And that's at 7:30. This will be, Chair, I believe this will be, and Ms. Reyes will correct me if I'm wrong, absent maybe some housekeeping, this will be the one matter that is on for that night. So all the members of the public, all of your, keep in mind all of your questions, keep in mind all of your concerns, and log on to the meeting on November 14th. And at that time, we will finish up with Mr. Jenkins' planner, the board professionals, and then Chairman, you would agree with me at that point, we'd open up to the public, correct?
That is correct.
One last administrative thing so that we're clear with regard to the Zoom link that is utilized for this meeting. Is it the same one that we have for this evening?
Madam Secretary will handle all of that.
No, it will not be the same.
Okay, no, I just want, I don't want there to be any confusion with regard to that.
Yeah, there will be, and Ms. Reyes, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be an appropriate notification so that members of the public will be able to know, just like they knew for tonight, what the Zoom link is to come on. We'll be able to put that up appropriately, Ms. Reyes.
It is on the city's website as we speak.
There you go.
Once again, the A-team.
Yes.
No, 18th?
A-team.
Oh.
A-team. The best team. You're awesome.
Reggie, she's
she's too young for that.
She's a little young for that. She's a little young for that.
Right.
All right. And so, all right. So all of our housekeeping is I think done. Chair, so back to you.
So do we need to put a ribbon on it and motion and second and
no need to motion.
Done?
It's a request that's been agreed to by Attorney Jenkins. He's waived the time. We've informed the public, and therefore this matter, through you, Chair, once again, is going to be heard 7:30 on Zoom, November 14th. It's a Thursday.
Which is a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. And that will be when we will reopen it and Attorney Jenkins' planner will be on.
Very good. So be it. So let it be written.
Now you're getting biblical.
Okay, all right. I'm leaving it alone. Okay. We're good then. We're set. So
Right.
this application will be carried until November 14th. And
Thank you all very much for your time.
thank you for your patience, your courtesy, and the public now knows.
All right. Everyone have a very good evening. Have a very good weekend, which can't come soon enough. And we'll see you all on November 14th.
Thank you all.
you.
Members, please hold on. We still have a little bit of paperwork to finish up. So with that, moving the agenda, is there any unfinished business, old business? I do have one, actually two. no, it's one, it's the same thing, but for Attorney Wenzel and Member Mobley, the Bravo site, did you, Member Mobley, did you get opportunity to have a meeting with Bravo and Attorney Wenzel? Did the letter go out that we requested?
Yeah,
Member Mobley?
very quick on my end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the letter did go out, and obviously we didn't get any response.
Okay, thank you. Member Mobley?
And on my end, yes, I did meet with the owner of Bravo. We're still talking. They still need to come with their professionals. And so that's what we're talking about. So I'm still engaged with them.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other old business? Is there any new business? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Vice President Eason,
Second.
Council Vice President Eason, and a second from Member Mobley. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any,
Chair, I'm sorry, I did have a question.
okay, question?
So on the 14th, are we going to provide an overview of the testimony tonight from
I
his
do,
profession?
I do plan
Go ahead.
on asking Attorney Jenkins if he would quickly do an overview in his opening before he calls his first witness.
I think that's good. Okay.
His
Thanks.
last witness.
Yes.
First witness for the night, for that night. Okay, last witness. Attorney Wenzel, you good? Okay. So with that, I entertain a motion. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Is there anyone that opposes adjourning this meeting at 10:51 p.m.? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the 14th.